Welcome everyone to the last round robin, round 5 match of the Chrono Lynx at Fort Dragonia race. Today we have EzioPony versus aka Azalea. And for commentating we have AG Deets, Super Handy, Mad Refugee, and Corporate Image. So we'll do a quick countdown if the runners are ready, and I'll leave you in the very capable hand of the commentators. So we'll do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Runners go, and good luck.
Here we go.
Get to find out what characters we have.
Yeah, it looked like Ezio maybe got a little bit of a late start.
Okay,
yeah,
sure. I was a little worried for a second there.
Nothing crazy in terms of the third character, Partial.
Versus Zappa, the blacksmith. Hopefully that's a good strength.
Yeah, as Dine mentioned in chat, he was looking at the Discord chat, so he had a little bit of delay. We'll adjust it towards the end so there's no like unfair time discrepancies. Yeah, in this first section, basically, both these runners are going to try to escape the dream sequence that starts Chrono Cross. The big thing is they're going to try to avoid all these encounters, especially the bats. The bats are going to be probably the most annoying thing to try to avoid, just depending on where they spawn at.
The most annoying encounter in the entire game. No joke.
The good thing is,
although the big Cybot enemies are, large, they move very slowly and they're also slow to react. So you can actually squeeze by some really tight areas without them even knowing you're there. But yeah, the bats are the big problem.
Yeah, luckily the good thing is that you can hide underneath the bridges if like the bat is just in an egregious place. Like what Azala, I thought Azala might have to do, but the bat turned around. Ooh, it's kind of close.
The real question is, do you think bats or doors are the worst encounter in this game?
Bats.
Probably bats. It is close. We had to think about it, but it probably is bats.
Yeah, you could practice doors all you want, but bats don't care.
I feel like with bats, like, I've tried to kind of just chill around bat rooms and figure out, like, how, like, where you can get close to the bat and where it's gonna encounter, but it's still, like, not consistent, I feel like.
Yeah, they can be very finicky because it can depend on like how high. Like I feel like it's got to do like a thing with like how high or low they're at, because there's sometimes you can run right underneath them, like and be really close, and there's other times where it's just like if you even get anywhere near them, you get the encounter.
Oh, Carbon, batter safe than sorry.
Oh, Carbon in chat is picking up Doc's puns already.
All right, we're through the dream sequence. Now the game can actually no resetting,
No resetting. Yeah, so I guess we can. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go.
I was gonna say, I guess we can go ahead and talk about what's coming up. Pretty, in this first split or first section coming up. Both the runners are gonna wake up nice and calmly, and they're gonna go talk to Lena on the pier. And Lena's gonna tell us and send us on our first, I guess, first quest, which is gonna be obtaining 3 Komodo scales. It's for her necklace. There's going to be some other drops that we're going to be trying to get that we can explain as we get closer to there, but that is the current objective that's coming up.
Yeah, casually, if you were to exit the home and go left, I think you could talk to either the fisherman or the little kid by him, and he would give you a Komodo scale as a key item, but it doesn't count towards your total for Lena's quest at the very beginning of the game. Don't know why, but there it is.
You can't just cheat the Komodo scale quest.
Gotta save the Komodos. You want to destroy their whole race.
Yeah, maybe that means that Lena has ulterior motives. If we can't just use one of the skills that we got peacefully.
I always like that intro there too, the little callback to Chrono Trigger with the opening. Your mom waking you up. here's Lena being all, hey, you slept in, so now I have to babysit. Thanks. So now you have to give me 3 Komodo scales, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, that's true. And they're also like, so before they go into the Lizard Rocks area to get the scales, we're gonna see them both stop at the shop here, right outside of here, and buy 2 fireballs. Those fireballs are gonna be pretty useful. Normally, we try to avoid using elements unless it's really needed. It's because, just based on the way Chrono Cross works, elements are consistent in that they 100% hit all the time, and they're decently powerful, especially early on. But they are very slow.
Zala actually accidentally said no to the shopkeeper first.
Oh, I
It's
didn't
very
see it.
easy to do that, because, like,
It's very easy because it's the second option to go into the shop menu for some reason.
There's something about this whole menu sequence, at least for me, that's kind of challenging. It's one of the shortest menus in the run. I think it is the shortest, but you have to have some real dexterity with your left hand, or whatever your hand you're using for control for like D-pad movement, to do it very quickly. So it's impressive to see some of the older runners like Close to War and Connor Cordell, how quickly they can go through those menus.
So Azala is going to take this first Komodo fight. It's going to be one of 3 that we do have to take for just part of the quest. And the formations you get here is actually what adds to the randomness of this first section. Azala got a pretty good formation. We're also going to be looking for, besides the scales, a fang, 2 humors, and a feather. The Komodos will only drop a feather, and it's a rare drop. It's 10% of the time.
Ooh, EzioPony
Oh.
got the big
4.
encounter. This is very rare, but you get one of every enemy, and it gives you a chance to get all the drops you need in this one fight. However, it is slow. There's 4
It is
enemies.
slow. If the fight goes well and you get everything, like, especially like 1 humor here, it's good, especially if you can avoid these other beach bums. And you hope that the formations after this are all like just 2 enemies. Then it kind of evens out and it's fine.
He's all doing a sick dodge, going past the log, or dodging the beach bum up there.
Yeah, it looks like Azala is either hoping that one beach bum at least is going to be in one of these Komodo fights, which it's not in this one, or is potentially planning on maybe doing the Ivory Dagger manner, which I know Azala does do.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate for Azala that both
Ooh.
of the random encounters that could potentially have the
So-
other enemies we're looking for were both just 2 Komodos.
So EzioPony did not even get any drop from the beach bum. That's like a 10% chance to not get anything, but 90% chance to get the humor, 10% chance to get the rare tablet drop, which is kind of useless.
I can't confirm this, but I believe it's a 90-10 split on whether or not you get something at all or not, and then it's also another 90-10% roll on whether or not you get the humor versus the tablet.
Correct. There's some variation between the enemies. It's either like 90 and 10 or 89 and 11% as far as getting a drop or not getting a drop. So Ezio got doubly unlucky there.
Yeah, and I imagine Ezio is probably going to try to either get another beach bum in the K-Pal section. I don't know if Ezio goes for Ivory Dagger, but essentially, like, ideally you want 2 humors. You can get by with having 1 because there's a backup for the other one with disassembling the armor that we get off of Poshul from getting a drop from Salt in the next boss fight coming up.
Speaking of
Speaking
boss
of the boss,
fights,
oh, go ahead, everybody.
Yeah, speaking of the boss fights, we are in the first boss fight of the run, the Mama Komodo. Boss fights are interesting in a way that the way that character progression in this game works is that there's no traditional experience points or leveling up in that regard. Characters get stronger after generally boss fights, but what are more generally known as star fights, where Mama Komodo is the first of these, where after the boss fight, all of your characters have a chance of getting stats. So what we're looking for is for Serge to potentially get a strength, which for Azala did not, but Azala did get the feather.
Yeah, he did get the feather drop, which means that he will save a little bit of like 15 seconds or so from not having to get the chest in the center there. But yeah, it does suck. He missed the first strength up. but all is not lost. We see Ezio actually heading into that same boss fight right now. Going to hopefully get the strength where Azala did not.
So we saw Ezio do a 2-2-2, which does 9 damage each, occasionally does 7 damage. But then the Fireball plus 2, you're looking for 49 damage or more. You could get a very low roll, get 48, and if that were to happen, the Mama Komodo would be at just 1 HP. One way around that is to do a 3-3 at the very start, but it's risky. We could talk about battle mechanics later and how it works,
Ooh,
but
both of them missed.
so no feather for Ezio and no humor for either of them, but he's always got is going to get a 15-second lead thanks to that feather drop.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because, like you had mentioned, neither one of them have humors right now. But what that usually means is that if you're someone who is going to for sure do what I would consider like default strats for the first hour and get Kid's dagger, Iron Dagger, Ezio I think might take the beach bum fight in K-Pow, whereas Zala, I'm not sure what Zala's choice is going to be here for this race.
Yeah, it's always interesting just how many like permutation there's so many possibilities in the beginning here, just the first 15 minutes of this game, just because of these randomized drop rates.
Yeah, there's a lot of variance, which when you're going for PB attempts can lead to a lot of resets.
Yep.
But I think that's really interesting with races and marathons and stuff like that because it kind of forces your hand to know how to at least get through the beginning with what you get.
So here we have Lena, we've met her at the beach like she said to do once we have the scales. And, she's just reminiscing about, hey, when we were young, you remember when you got attacked by that panther demon? I'm so glad you're still alive. But then something weird's happening, as you see on Azala's screen here. He's getting the flashbacks here, and then he's about to wake up and discover Lena's gone.
How dare Lena abandon us after we
How
almost drowned on the beach?
Yeah, it was her idea for us to come here in the first place.
Hey, Azala in chat saying, I don't actually trust the Ivory Vest drop, smile. So that means Azala will probably be taking at least one beach bum fight in K-Pow as well.
Interesting thing about taking potential extra fights in K-Pow is related to the character progression of star levels. There's also what's called mini stars, where in between star levels, if you perform a certain number of random encounters, it's different for each star level. You have a chance. If the way the game works is that if you were to get a stat up on the next star encounter, once you get the mini star, you would get one of that stat. So something that could potentially happen here is that the runners taking the extra beach bum fights, at this point, this mini star is 2 encounters, and there are 2 beach bumps there. So they can potentially take both of them and risk getting the mini star, which could get them an extra strength, which could catch up for the missed strength now that they missed on the Mama Komodo, or they could just take the 1, be faster, and continue on their way. So it's a bit of a strategy, a bit of a on-the-fly call you can make, and adds to some of the variety of adding to the randomness of this beginning part of the game.
Yeah. So like fun fact, actually, kind of dealing with that that you had mentioned is, so the game actually doesn't deal with like whether or not you get a strength up or a stat up or whatever you're looking for in the current boss fight you're at. It sets it from the last boss fight. So when you're beating Mama Komodo, the game is already told it already knows whether or not you're getting a stat up for the next boss fight. So that's why
future.
Yeah.
Oh, we had a question. Sunbro68 asks, what hardware are the runners playing on? I noticed EzioPony's game seems to have smoother polygons. And so in this case, I know Zala is playing on PS2. I actually think he's playing on PS2 Slim, where EzioPony is using emulator. I'm not sure the specific emulator he's using. One thing that's I think that's a fun thing about approaching Chrono Cross for speedrunning purposes is it is viable to play this on emulator. PS2 Slim is the is kind of currently known as the fastest way to play this game because the PS2 offers a fast disk speed option that will load the screens a little bit faster than any other option. So that's the ideal way to speedrun this game, but it honestly doesn't, I mean, with how long the speedrun is for even the Lynx 2 category, it's still very viable to run this on emulator and still get really competitive times.
Yeah, generally any individual skill will outweigh the benefit of the faster load times of the PS2.
Yeah, and so as we see that, oh, go ahead, Corp.
No, I was just gonna segue into what Izala is about to do. Head over to Cape Powell, get an encounter with the beach bum. He's looking for 2 beach bums in this encounter. So usually you'll get 1 in the 2 sand squirts, which is the least favorable encounter. But yeah, as we were mentioning, we need these drops to eventually craft some very powerful weapons that are going to carry us in through the rest of the game. And we were mentioning about the rates at which you get the drops. There's a chance that with this encounter for Izala and eventually Ezio, they don't even get the humor drop, and in which case they take the second beach bum up above. And then that would play into what Mad was referring to about getting the star level, or sorry, the mini star, which gives them a potential chance of getting a +1 to strength, which is what they're looking for. We talk about stats throughout Chrono Cross speedruns, and at this point, the stats don't matter so much. Alright, he's all got the humor, it's good. But they will play into whether or not certain fights will be faster, potentially faster, or slower.
Yeah, in
Notably,
the same
Izala also got fangs, which he was missing from the early encounters because he only got Komodos.
Komodos. Yeah, so we always talk about it like in every race. In the same vein of what Corp was saying, is that the strength and stats do matter. They're not like non-factors. However, there's a lot of factors that can also play into it as well, to where just because someone has better stats doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be faster or that they're going to have better fights or better RNG overall. Just because like misses are definitely a big thing in Chrono Cross, and then there's other systems at play that we haven't really explained yet, like AP systems and stuff like that, that are all RNG as well.
It's not a bad time to get into some of that. So you'll notice when you go to attack, you have 3 options. You have a 1, 2, and 3. So it's kind of a tiered attack system. 1 being kind of the weakest attack, however, the most likely to hit, and 3 being the reverse of that, the strongest attack being the least likely to hit. However, the 3 is the only way you can crit, which will double your attack. That's kind of a nice trade-off there. And as you attack, so you have 7 stamina to spend your attacks on. You can also use elements, we can get into that a little bit later. And so as you spend your stamina, your accuracy also goes up. However, it never reaches 100%. It will always cap at 99%. So that's why you'll probably notice throughout this run, landing those hits is usually the more important factor. And a lot of our strategies are more towards consistently hitting versus, trying to, get a 3 off and crit, which obviously will end the fight faster, but because it's not as likely in how long the run lasts, consistency and safety is sometimes more favored by runners.
Yeah, so we saw Izala got a very good start to this fight. This is a tutorial fight, and at the start, the tutorial does not begin until Salt, the tall, skinny fellow, goes to attack Serge, and then he mentions that his innate element is white, and that they don't have black elements, so forth. But once their dialogue is over, their HP values will go to normal levels, which is like 120 for Karsh, and then 80, 70 something for Salt and Pepper. But before that, they have like 30,000 HP or something like that. So you could try to attack them, but your damage is going to be negligible. So that's why at the start of the fight, you want to defend and wait for Salt to attack. Hey, Ezio got it too. Good starts on both runners.
That's never fun when you're doing these tutorial fights and you're just defending and they just won't talk. You're like, please.
Yeah, so the thing you're looking for is like it really just depends on Salt's starting AP. Sometimes you'll have to see Ketchup and Karsh go like twice. I've seen Karsh I think go twice before I've seen Salt go once in the start. And Salt hitting Serge is actually the key that triggers the story proc.
Pretty decent fight for Izala. It's a sub 20, which is always very nice to see.
Did get a
Stange
strength?
drops.
And he got the vest drop.
But yeah, for the Karsh Salt and Pepper fight, the idea is you take out Salt first. I think he has the lowest amount of HP. Then you take out Pepor, and then finally Kid and Serge will tag team Karsh. Karsh will sometimes use his Dragon Rider skill. Well, we don't know why exactly. It's not really based on HP or turn order or things like that. He just sometimes randomly will use his green element attack. But we see on Izala's screen coming up as a very important part of the run, both for this category and any percent. Kid is going to give us the option of joining our party, and we want to say no to Kid. If we do say yes accidentally, we miss out on recruiting Lena, and Lena is a very important part of the speed run, and we'll see why in like an hour or so.
It's actually the hardest part of the game, is saying no to Kid 3 times because it's the bottom option all 3 times, and you're just trying to mash through the text as fast as you can. But then you have to make sure that you say the second option. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just, someone answered it in chat. Neo Kevlar has asked, so how long is this category as opposed to the full game? The full game, I think once you become like a little bit of an experienced runner, you aim for around 7 hours or so, maybe a little bit less. The Lynx 2 category is anywhere between like 2 hours and 10 to 15 minutes to 2.5 hours.
Ezio also
Essentially up
got
to 3.
very similar outcome of that fight, got all the common drops and got a strength as well. So it looks like both runners neither runner will have to deal with Iron Dagger, or Ivory Dagger strats.
That actually plays into one of the other questions in chat right now. King Duff asks if he didn't get the vest drop, would he have had to go back to Cape Hal to fight another beach bum? Because he already has 1 humor. If you're talking about Izala, if he didn't get the vest drop, he would have. I mean, Izala probably would have just went on without the other humor and done Ivory Dagger manner with Kid. But if he wanted to build both weapons, yes, he would have had to fight another beach bum in Cape Hal.
And if you do go back to Cape Hal to fight, this time you're bringing Lena and Pashul along. And all the enemies at Cape Hal will have more HP. But luckily, Lena is really strong in magic, so if that's the case and you are going to commit to that, you can run, let's see on Izala's screen, if you go to the left side behind the boxes or whatever, there's a Magma Bomb element. And you could allocate that to Lena, and you can use Magma Bomb in the Cape Hal fights. And it's really powerful. So it's a relatively quick way to deal with them, but it will cost you about at least a minute of time to just go there, get the encounter, and leave. And then you have to deal with the luck just in case they don't drop anything again. But both these runners should, well, they don't have to deal with it, but even if they had that option, they probably would have continued on without having, or going for the Ivory Dagger strats, which is a little bit more challenging to deal with, but I think they'll both be fine if they ever had to do that.
I feel like there's enough variance with how these fights can go, and with your stats that honestly, depending on how lucky you are, Ivory strat or Ivory Dagger sometimes can feel like there's not that much of a difference if you have a super strong Serge and you just basically solely rely on Serge to put out your damage and just kind of ignore Kid and only use her for stamina. But if you also have a weak Serge though, that makes that alternate strategy kind of suffer a lot if your Kid is also going to be losing out on strength from the weapon upgrade.
we see on Izala's screen, he's entering the second tutorial fight, Salt and Pepper. They're teaching us about the turn element colors. Since they know that Serge is white element, Salt gets the bright idea to turn him black, thinking that will weaken him. And it does no such thing, so Pepor is like, he's just baffled by his stupidity. But this time, he doesn't choose to take out his aggression. He'll do that later. Serge is going to do a 1-2-2, and then use a Fireball +2. Sometimes Pepor will use Strengthen just before Fireball, and that'll put a red element on the field and will boost the Fireball damage that Serge just did. It didn't happen this time, but it's more often than not you'll see it. Wow, Pashul actually hitting for a change.
Yay! Good girl, Pashul.
Yeah, this fight is incredibly random because of the hit rate, and you have to rely on both Pashul and Serge to hit. Zal is just going, oh, there it goes. Was that 95% miss? Something like that.
Always sad when we see it.
So far, so good. We see on Ezio's screen, he's gonna make his way to this fight, but you see that dog, that dingo, is actually kind of challenging to get around. Let's see if he has a... Oh, okay. Nice dodge. Yeah, all the enemies in the game, besides bosses, can be dodged on the overworld, if you know where they are and how to deal with them. Sometimes they're harder than others to dodge, but... so like that dingo could have been on a very narrow path, and there would have been no way around him without hitting the encounter, but... Both runners were able to get through that section with no issue. Well, Ezio's just finishing or starting up this fight though, but see how it goes.
Yeah, and as Ezio starts up this fight that we just saw Azala do, we're seeing Azala head into Termina, where we're gonna make use of all those drops that we were talking about in the first section, so that we can craft the weapons that we need going forward.
Yeah, this part of the game in Termina is where we're setting up the next part of the plot, where we're about to find out we're about to run into Kid here, and she's basically wants to have us help break into Viper Manor to steal the Frozen Flame, and the incentive she gives Serge to go into the manor to help do that is that the dragoons, such as Salt, Pepper, and Cart, that are after him in this strange world he's in, that's where they're headquartered, so he has incentive to go there to try and figure out what's going on.
Yep, so that's actually going to be the next thing per story that comes in. Is usually there are always 3 different like trees of like routes you can take here casually to get into the manor, where we can either take Guile, we can do Nikki route, or we can do Pierre. I feel like most people probably casually end up falling into doing the Guile route, where you climb I forget the name of the cliff, but for the speed run we actually do what is the fastest route, and that's picking up Pierre and going to the front gate.
Ezio just finished up the Salt and Pepper fight. Had some unfortunate misses, but was able to survive. Sometimes Pepor will be merciless against Lina and just knock her out, but not this time. So Ezio's Lina had 11 magic, which is really good. We're going to try to track stats throughout the game, or throughout the run, and Lina's magic is one of them that we try to pay attention to. But we saw on Izala's screen, we traded Lina for Kid for now, and then, let's see, less than an hour from now, we're gonna bring back Lina in the party.
You can see on Azala's screen that he picked up the Profiteer's Purse. What this item normally does is it's supposed to passively give us extra money after encounters. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it and we're going to disassemble it, which gets us access to iron. Now normally we're not supposed to have access to iron this early in the game, but by disassembling this Profiteer's Purse we can get 2 of it, which allows us to forge both the Steel Swallow and the Iron Dagger, which is basically the 3rd tier of weapons in the game, whereas we start with tier 1. So they are very strong weapons, and this makes this upcoming section of Viper Manor much faster.
Yeah, so we see Azala doing the recruiting of Pierre currently. Pierre's basically moping in the corner because he wants to go into the manor, but he says he doesn't have his precious hero medal, which is conveniently for us located by a kid right outside this door who had found it, I guess, running around playing.
It's a bit of a reflection of Chrono Trigger, with Tata having the hero's medal from Frog. In this place, instead of it belonging to a real hero, Pierre he believes himself to be a hero. He's the hero we all want him to be, inside our hearts. But Pierre, unfortunately, is one of the weakest, if not the weakest, party member in the game. But it just so happens that his route through Viper Manor is the fastest way in, so that is why we bring him along.
That's why he's the hero of the speed run.
There you go.
Yeah, it is not. It's not uncommon. Well, it's a little bit uncommon, but it's not impossible for Pierre to, when we pick him up, to have 2 strength. For context.
Yep. Yeah, we saw Azala recruit Pierre, but not put him in the party. He actually saved a few seconds of time by rejecting him at first, and then putting him in the party on the overworld, because he has a little bit more extra text, and I think that's about it.
Well, he does like an animation, like he thrusts out his arm up, in a gentlemanly, Three Musketeers type pose, and that takes time to watch him do that.
So we actually had mentioned.
Go ahead, Andy.
I was gonna say, so we had mentioned earlier, or Nish had mentioned earlier, that the little bit of a distinction between boss fights and star fights, where in most cases they are synonymous, but this actually is one of the reasons why there's a little bit of a distinction between the two, because the fight that Azala is about to do is just 2 sergeants guarding this gate. However, it actually counts as a star fight, which will give us a chance of getting key stat ups here.
And the goal for this fight and all the guard fights going forward is to try to defeat the guards before they get a chance to attack. And that's not always guaranteed. In fact, it's rarely guaranteed, because the guards will have a random AP value. AP stands for action points. So let's say they have a starting AP of 5. That means Serge can do a 2-3, like a 1-1, 1-2, anything like that adds up to 5. And then the guard will get a chance to go. But we have no way of knowing when they go at the start. It's only after they go that we know their average AP value after that. But then you could plan accordingly who to attack, and in hopes of defeating them before they get a chance to attack.
So Azala at 11 strength here, which is honestly not very good. So he's gonna have to. This fight with catch up is gonna probably last an extra turn or two that it sometimes doesn't, but we'll still be able to get through it.
Yeah, this catch-up fight coming up is set up in such a way that really the only enemy we need to focus on is Ketchup himself, because at a certain HP threshold, he'll use an element called Flame Knock, where he'll use Salt as a bat to hit Pepor into somebody, which conveniently for us knocks both Salt and Pepor out, so we don't have to deal with them. So we can focus entirely on Ketchup.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Nice.
So Azala, already a little bit weaker than what he wants to be, got the rare 3 misses on Pierre, which per the story we're gonna have to defend here anyways, because it's once again one of these things where we have to wait till a certain part before we can actually do damage. But what normally happens is Pierre dies from the 1 hit, and he gets revived, and the revive puts a white on the field, which boosts Surge's attack power. Instead, if that doesn't happen, Cure Plus is what happens, and it puts a blue on the field. So it's going to make Azala weaker than what he would have already been.
Yeah, the revive is a white element, and that boosts Surge's attack power, I think, by 11%. and but the blue does nothing for Serge as a boost, and it actually weakens Kid as well. So Zala's gonna have a little bit of a tougher time. Well, depending on hits and misses, might have a bit of a tougher time than Ezio.
Yeah, a lot of these strategies play off of the fact that each character has an innate elemental color, and so trying to use the field effects to our advantage is a pretty big deal. Sometimes, so there's some strategies where more often the element itself isn't as necessary as the color of the element being used.
There is a small risk here with Flame Knock, with Kid being only at 48 health and not defended. Okay, so he's attacking Serge, so it'll be okay.
Which notably, Serge is very healthy for Azala, like absurdly healthy. That
Yeah,
120
compare-
max HP compared to Ezio's 82. Granted, Ezio's 1 star level behind, but still, that's a big discrepancy in HP.
Really good second half here. If for Izala, if he had a little bit better strength, he would have finished without even seeing that last turn. But he hit all the stuff he needed to. Got a good AP, a good stamina refresh and AP for the second half, and is gonna finish the fight.
There's a small chance that Izala gets the rare magic ring drop from Ketchup, and if he does, that'll put off a lot of pressure on Izala because we need it. We hope to get at least one of those for the run. Let's see.
Ooh.
Okay. Did
So
not get it, but that's all right.
yeah, Izala also still at 11 strength. Didn't get that strength either. Ezio also did not get a strength from the guard fight. So Ezio is about to do the same thing as Izala just did, fighting this at 11 strength. Hopefully getting the revive in the field at least.
See if Ketchup can hit Pierre on Ezio's screen.
Yeah, I think it's not uncommon for it to miss once or twice. It's just pretty uncommon for it to miss all 3 times.
Yeah,
There we
Pierre
go.
happens to be really dodgy, and he's kind of a really good tank for this section. I mean, he's only there to take hits, and he ends up dodging more hits than more often than not, so pretty helpful.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
something
on
we didn't
Ezio's-
touch on yet. Oh,
I was just gonna say, so yeah, on Ezio's screen we could see what's supposed to happen. So now Ezio's just gonna defend until now Salt uses revive on Pierre, which, as stated, puts a white on the field and does not put a blue on the field. So that's what's supposed to happen.
and you'll notice because up before the Ketchup fight, it's always been Serge being first in line. And there's actually a way to change your party order by using the select button. And by purposely putting Pierre at the front as our party leader, we put him in that tank position to tank those fights from Ketchup. Otherwise, usually if you're playing this game casually, most likely you have Serge at the front, and he's the one that will die and get the revive and be very low on health.
So
We
we
use-
saw Izala doing the Dragonite feeding game. All you have to do is feed them 10 times, and then the owner or the caretaker gives you the key to the manor. And we'll see on Izala's screen, he'll probably go for a guard skip. Handy, want to explain that?
Sure. Yeah, so what we're going to see him probably do is he's going to try to grab this guard right here, and he's going to try to use the guard that's aggroed on him to sneak behind the guards, and he does get it. I'll finish explaining it. So
Very
what he did right there is initially the guards that guard the door right there, if you get anywhere within like a vicinity or a circle around them, they'll stop you from getting behind them and like charge at you, and you have to do the fight. But the game actually allows you to run behind them freely if you are being chased by another guard. So what actually happens is after you actually get behind them and you're lined up at the door, you have the key, you have all the prerequisites that you need. The guard will be aggro on you for like, I don't know, 5 seconds or so, and then they'll be like, where'd they go? And in between the where'd they go text box and then the other guard saying, hey, get them, and charging at you, there is a small like frame space that you can get a confirm input to open up the door and get in freely. Very hard, and has a little bit of randomness of whether or not you're going to get your input in on the timing or not. So claps for Izala.
I believe Izala has a 100% success rate this tournament, getting guard skip.
I think he's the only one to have to be this successful in the tournament.
Yeah, so we didn't mention it. It actually saves probably about a minute or so, especially at his strength, or maybe a little bit more. just from not having to, just completely skipping a guard fight, that if Ezio doesn't try to go for guard skip, we'll be fighting.
Ezio did get a strength off of the catch-up fight, so it was a little bit scary.
Yeah, a good goal to reach strength-wise is 13 after catch-up. That will allow Serge to knock out these silver armored guards with a 2-2-3 attack, assuming they all connect. You could go for like a 3-3 and crit, but if you had a 12 strength, but
Ooh.
Oh, double miss.
Yeah, it's really sad because Azawa doesn't even have like great strength to begin with, so you really hope that you get you at least hit. So having low strength and missing is just very bad.
Yeah, so Ezio looks like he just decided to take on the front guards right up front, just get them out of the way. It's not a terrible way to go if you know you're not consistent with the guard skip. Just for learning the runs when you're a newer runner, that's kind of the easiest way to get through.
Yeah, the main thing is if you go for guard skip and you fail it, which is already hard for experienced runners, you lose about 20 seconds because you have to not only fight the guard, but then you have to, after the fight's over, circle around to get the other guard off you before you can open it.
I'm actually going to go ahead and plug Handy here as an excellent video tutorial on his channel on specifically on doing guard skip if you're interested in walking through that.
Thank you.
We see on Izala's screen, he's about to go pick up a code to the manor. It's 2 numbers, including 1 and 9, between 1 and 9. And he's hoping for a sum of 10 or less. I would say get your guesses in, but it's a little late because we're about to find out in 5 seconds.
You could get your guesses in for Ezio, at least.
4, 6. That's a sum of 10 exactly, so not bad.
Oh, I didn't see what happened on it. I didn't see what happened on Ezio's screen, but he is running from another guard fight, so I hope he didn't get caught by the spotlight, hopefully. Oh no, he got caught. Okay, on that screen.
Yeah, the outside of the manor.
Not nearly as scary.
Not
nearly as scary as getting caught by the spotlight. Just getting caught by a random one, because all the guards swarm you. Because the way encounters work in this game is that you can run from basically any encounter in the game up to and including the final boss. The only thing though is that when you run away from an encounter, you have a little bit of period of invulnerability or so where you can't get into an encounter with that enemy again, but you can immediately get into an encounter with a different enemy. So if 2 enemies swarm you on the overworld map and you get into an encounter, you're stuck having to fight at least one of them, because if you run from one of them, you'll immediately get into the encounter with the other, and then you can't move, so you have to take at least one of them.
So Dee, do you want to explain the Neo and Bulb fight, how this is supposed to go?
Yes, so you'll notice a little earlier, and we'll see it on Ezio's screen, or actually this would have been earlier, so right after the ketchup fight, we picked up a turn yellow element. And again, this plays into the color association that we have with characters. So these bulbs are green innate, and so by using the turn yellow on Serge, we are making him stronger against these bulbs. Another interesting factor that sometimes it's really easy to miss is basically everything in this game has a gender associated to it, and that also affects how much HP they have, and can also slightly alter your strategy if you notice, if it's a female, that'll have less HP than a male. You're able to get off these fights.
Yeah, the Neo and Bulb fight on Izala's screen can be a bit risky. They use, their melee attacks and then either Bush Basher or Bushwhacker. And I believe Bush Basher has a chance of poisoning. And at this point, we have no antidotes, and our HP is pretty low. So poison is actually pretty detrimental. As long as it doesn't hit Serge or Kid, it's fine. Pierre's, believe it or not, Pierre's pretty expendable. So, but if it does hit Serge or Kid, the only way to get rid of poison is for them to get knocked out in the fight.
So far, the fight's going decently well for Izala.
Yeah, for his stats, he's been hitting everything so far, I believe.
Oh, no poison, thank goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, the bulbs were a bit mean. They both used green elements on Serge, of all people. But it was lucky that neither poisoned.
Still at
Still at
11.
11.
Oh
Oof.
no.
So at best, unless, well, he could get a +2, but what's likely to happen here is he's going to be fighting Lynx at 12 strength potentially.
Yeah, on average, you'll leave Viper Manor with 13 or 14 strength, and 13 is kind of low, but Izala might have a tough time hitting the 14 range. But as Handy mentioned, you can get a +2 to your strength, especially if your character stops getting strength. The percent chance to get more strength or a +2 goes up. So I think right now he's probably close to a 10% chance to get a +2, something like that.
Yeah, we also see Azala actually doing the process of getting one of the most important accessories in the entirety of the run, even the 80% run, where you can actually talk to and bother Karsh 20 times here to eventually let you in this chest, and it'll give us a Dragoon Gauntlet, which is going to give us an item, which is an item that gives us +3 to strength. So very important to pick that up.
On Ezio's
Yeah,
screen, he actually... Oh, I just wanted to point out the revive real quick. This is the only revive we get in the whole game. Oh, and he got a 22.
2-2.
Nice.
What a good code. I was close. I said 1-1. But anyway, that's a good code for Izala. I'm sorry, Ezio. Ezio will be able to save about 8 seconds off of Izala's code. It's not much, but it's something, you know.
You were going to mention something about the revive?
Oh, just that's the only one we get in this whole game for the speedrun purposes. So it's really important to pick that up as far as, I mean, hopefully for speedrunning purposes, we never need it and, you know, no character will die and that's the fastest way to go. But in order to recover from some fights, getting that revive is really important.
I agree, that is very important. On Azala's side, though, we see Azala coming up to Marcy, which first we're going to get a big, like, plot dump, lore dump here for, I don't know, I forget how long, probably it's like a couple of minutes long. But after that, we're going to go enter into the Marcy fight, which actually can be very, very dangerous. Corp, if you want to maybe explain how that fight's supposed to go.
Sure. We'll just watch the old man, the old prophet, descend these ladder. So, for those who don't know much about this game, and you wouldn't be blamed if you didn't, this old man is Balthazar from Chrono Trigger. He's a kind of exists in a different alternative future, one in which Lavos was destroyed and the future did not end. So he's kind of the instigator for everything in this game, because his goal is to save Princess Shala, or Scala, however you want to say her name. And so he knows all, but he refuses to tell us pretty much everything, just kind of confuses us even further. Marcy says I think one of the first things she says is, "Can I kill him? Can I kill him?" And he's like, "Patience, girl, patience." He doesn't say no, he just says patience. So that kind of goes to show kind of what Balthazar's character is all about. But anyway, yeah, the Marcy fight. It's one of the first challenges for the speedrun. I would say it's kind of like the Dragon Tank and Chrono Trigger speedruns, where making a mistake is pretty fatal. Marcy has HP thresholds where her AI changes. At half health, she'll use an attack called Cat's Cradle, which is a pretty strong blue element attack that can one-shot Kid if Kid has really low HP. And then if you bring her to 3/4 health, I believe, she'll start using Ice Blasts, which are very powerful, and usually you'll see 2 of them. They have the potential to freeze a party member, in which case they will not be able to act, and you could get a game over if any other party members are over or got knocked out. But for the fight, he's always going to do a 3-3 with Serge, hope it hits. Kid is going to supply some chip damage.
Crit.
Much needed crit in Azala's case. That's a really good thing.
Yeah, so essentially, like what Corp was saying, what Azala is going to try to do here is kind of watch damage and hopefully have enough stamina and strength to burst Marcy down, like on the same turn that she would be normally Ice Blast. So Azala's probably going to see a Cat's Cradle here. Yeah, this should be Cat's Cradle. That tells us that we're at least over that half HP flag. So she is probably, I imagine Azala at this strength might not fully commit to, oh, he has to now. The one poked her into it.
Pierre be a hero? Will he step in? He has a chance.
Pierre might have to. Yeah. Oh, he has to.
3-3.
Be a hero!
Pierre is a hero.
Yeah.
Pierre is always the hero.
The ultimate hero.
Yeah, I feel like the Marcy fight's kind of the first time that it forces runners to, in the heat of a fight, actually track that AP, because again, she can if you throw a 3-3, she's basically guaranteed to go, just after that one attack. So keeping track of that is probably I would say one of the most important skills to learn about speedrunning this game.
Yeah, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news here after that Pierre slam dunk, but Azala is still at 11 strength.
One of the important things about the Marcy fight is afterward, the drop. Marcy has a 90% chance to drop an Ice Blast element, which is tier 3, tier 4, something. It's a very powerful blue element attack that's going to be very useful for the speedrun. Her rare drop, the 10%, is a piece of iron, which we don't need. It's completely useless, and it's always disheartening to get that iron drop, because it will, at a minimum, cost you around 30 to 40 seconds of time in the next big section of the game, leading up to Fort Dragonia, and past Fort Dragonia.
Yeah, there's not too many element drops that we look for with this speedrun, but that Ice Blast is for sure one of them.
We see Ezio actually heading into the Marcy area right now, as Azala is about to do the last guard fight of the manor before we head into Lynx.
As a reward for defeating Marcy, Balthasar tells you about this pillar that has a button or a lever, switch, something on it that almost crushes these guards. And both Azala and Ezzy are going to hope that this guard fight, which is required, is just 3 guards and not 4. So Azala got the 3 guard fight, which is great. Thanks to that Dragoon Gauntlet that we got, it got a Serge a +3 to his attack power, so normally, with average strength levels, a 2-3 would be enough to take out these silver armored guards, but Azala, playing it wisely, is using a 3-3 with Serge to ensure that does enough damage to knock out these silver armored guards.
Yeah, it actually goes to show that sometimes, like, where having 1 extra strength or so would do a lot in terms of, like, battles, how fast they go, because if he has that 12 here, I believe he can do a 2-3, like you were mentioning on the guards, where if you don't have that, if you're at 11, you have to go for a little bit more risky stuff, which could end up snowballing how slow the fight is.
Really good guard fight for Azala. I don't think they win at all.
Yeah, it was a good fight, especially for the strength level. And we talk about strength levels and such, but what's really important, especially in the early game, well, throughout the whole run, is to hit. If you can have all the strength in the world, but it doesn't mean nothing if you can't hit. So you can have really low strength like Azala has and still get a really good time early game and mid game, just as long as you hit everything.
And conversely, you could have a bunch of strength and miss everything and lose all the time in the world.
Yep.
We actually see Azala coming up to the last fight in the manor, which is going to be Lynx, and Lynx is going to be like almost a continuation in terms of like fights in the manor or in the first part of the race, that you really kind of have to count damage and you have to be kind of aware of what's happening in the fight, or it can go very badly, similar to Marcy. Because Lynx actually, in his crit health stance, will do a move called Nostrum if he gets to go, and that is going to heal him for about 200 health. And especially being at this low of strength, you don't want to have to do 200 more health. That'll make the fight last a long time. But we actually happen to know that on the same time that we can put him into crit health, we can't burst him down immediately most of the time. He is going to get a turn. But we do use the fact that we know how his AI responds to certain, I can't think of the word, but certain things that happen to him. So we're actually going to use something either like Pilfer or Dash and Slash on the same turn that he goes into crit health to overwrite the fact that where he would normally Nostrum. And instead he'll respond with Imbecile if he gets hit by Pilfer, and he'll respond with Anti-White if he gets Dash and Slash.
interesting decision on Izala's part. He could have used a turn yellow at the very start of the fight to turn kid yellow. Oh, there he goes. Oh, never mind. He's doing what I was talking about. So what this does is it removes that black on the field that you saw in the top left corner, and that strengthens Serge's attacks and also strengthens Kid's attacks against Lynx. So it puts the fight into perspective on a more even playing field, so that you could finish it accordingly. Ezio had a really good Marcy fight, 14 strength on Serge and the Ice Blast.
Yeah, that's all you can ask for.
Carbon mentioning in chat that Azala likes to do it on second turn to prevent a 2 AP roll
I see.
from Lynx.
He doesn't trust the hero. I get it.
Honestly, really good attacks from Lynx on Pierre's. I mean, on Pierre's side, on Azala's side. Spread it out. He spread the damage. Did get the magic ring still. Nice.
Yeah, so when Kid does the steal on Lynx, the common steal is a magic ring, which is, again, the one we want. Most of our routing revolves around getting the common drops in most cases. And as such, the rare drop that we could potentially steal is a Power Glove, which, while nice, is not nearly as important as the magic ring or the next sections coming up.
That was a really awkward turn from Azala. The Pilfer turn didn't look like it, unless I missed him. Link's go didn't push him into the crit stance, so he had to do a little bit more defending to kind of build up everything and use dash and slash to control Lynx and not get nostrummed. Uh-oh.
Getting into scary territory here with this fight.
Yeah, this is just like, this is how like really bad strength fights with Lynx can go. But he got through it. And a 56 no less, that's not bad.
Hey, there's the +2. Serge is at 13 for Izala, so it's not bad.
Finally hit that 13 threshold at the end of the Viper Manor portion.
Ezio also only getting 3 guards in the last guard fight of the manor, which is really good.
And he did call the +2 strength for Azala on Lynx.
So Dina asks, how many people got the rare iron drop during the tournament? I believe it was only a few. Most everybody in the tournament has gotten the Ice Blast drop so far, at the very least. I would say 2 or 3, my knowledge.
Yeah, we're seeing
That's honestly
Ezio's
favorite drops to get in this game, to be honest, is that not getting the Ice Blast. Sorry, Handy, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say we got to see Ezio's higher strength play a factor in that guard fight, where he was able to 1 round the sergeant with Serge with the 2-2-3.
Yeah, Zio's doing a great job just with these guard fights. Very, very smooth. It's nice when your fights go according to script, according to the notes, and you can just be done with them and they don't get any attacks in. That usually doesn't work out that way though.
Yeah, Chrono Cross speedruns, they give you, at least for the notes, they give you a way to deal with all the boss fights optimally, right? But when things go wrong, it gives you the option as a runner to choose how you want to deal with every fight. So everybody has their own preferences on what they want to do. But the more experience you get with things going wrong, the more quickly you can recover from a bad situation or an optimal situation. So it's one of the parts of the speedrun that makes it a lot of fun, at least in my opinion.
All right, let's see how Ezio's Lynx fight goes here for Viper Manor.
Ooh, got a really good start. Had a miss though. Occasionally, Lynx will roll very low on his AP turn at the very start. Becomes a little bit tricky on how to deal with it, but I think Ezio will be fine.
Yeah, thankfully he's not missing very much. He did miss the opening 3, and Serge's 3s are going to be the most important thing that you're kind of keeping track of in terms of damage in the fight. However, take a small break over to Zala's screen where we're about to see Lynx say the thing.
The
He did
Chrono
it.
trigger.
He said the thing. Back over to Ezio's side where Serge is getting mauled by a scythe. Luckily, he's on his turn for Pilfer, so he shouldn't see another attack, hopefully, for the rest of this fight. Because again,
Yeah,
Ezio has been hitting, so that's really good.
Also got the magic ring, so both players have a magic ring for this run.
Uh-oh. Yeah, he missed one of the 3s there, so the Pilfer didn't actually control the Nosh from not happening, so what he's going to have to use is he's going to have to use Dash and Slash to do it instead. But he's also got to be a little bit careful here. Uh-oh, and he's going for Surge again, so...
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Interesting way to deal with that. I would have thought that the 3 attacks would have knocked him out, but
I am
Ezio
not sure
played
this Dash and Slash is going to kill. Maybe I'm misjudging how much damage he's at, but yeah, I didn't.
But this should knock him out if it connects. Yep. Oh, especially with the crit.
Especially with the crit, yeah.
Oh. Finish him off, kid.
All right, pretty good fight for Ezio.
Kid just needed a grand finale since we don't use her ever again after this.
DNX's mentions 15 strength for Ezio. Yeah, 15 strength is kind of what you aim for. I mean, obviously more the better, but it is about the average, leaving the manor.
And now we're officially entering the what most runners would consider the least exciting part of the run. It's basically just a whole bunch of button mashing, you know, maybe move left and right for a little bit. Pretty much for a good 10, 15 minutes of time here. We also choose not to save Kid at this point. This is another branch in the storyline. You can opt to save Kid, which means you are choosing to go to your home world and find, basically you have to kill off a Hydra in order to make an antidote to save her, because she's poisoned with a rare poison that the Hydras are extinct in this world, but not in your home world. So you can opt to save her that way. But for speedrunning purposes, we actually just choose to skip that whole optional side quest altogether and say, hey, there's nothing we can really do about that. You know, we're just going to move on. And we don't really get any other, there's not a secondary side quest we get by saying no. We just skip the save kids side quest, essentially.
Yeah, if you look on Izala's screen, we're going to see Harley, or Harl, however you want to say her name. She's about to burn Korcha, as he deserves it. But if you look real closely, Harl is going to be by Kid's bedside, and then she'll kind of jump up in the air and seem to disappear. But if you look closely, you'll see her outline, and she is in fact standing right beside the bed. She did not leave. She's going to listen to every word that's being said by Kid, and eventually, canon-wise, she'll be stealing the astral amulet that Korcha takes away from us, because, you know, obviously it's the right thing to do, right? Somebody's on their deathbed, they give you an item that they wish you to have, so naturally you should take that away from that person. Right, Korcha? Right.
Actually.
We also can see Moderdina and Andy in chat already starting their guesses coming up. I guess we can go ahead and talk about that. We actually haven't talked about the mechanic of your allies in this game and how they stat up even though they're not in your party. So every ally that you can get in the game, even once you get way later, like Karsh or Zoa, etc., they're constantly rolling from whatever their starting value is, like how Serge and them do, in the background until you get them. So they're going to be random values by the time we get them as well. Coming up for the second half of the race, Glenn and Lena are going to be two really important factors going forward, even more so than Serge, really. So Glenn's strength is going to be a big thing coming up, and you can probably guess somewhere between 11. I think you can have 10, but 11 to up to like 20. And for Lena's magic, you can have anywhere between 10 magic. I guess you could still be at 9 if you're really unlucky. Up to like 15, 16 is really high. But those are going to be really important stats that if chat wants to guess on, they can.
Well,
Yeah,
and
we
this is
should
why
see
earlier we mentioned Ezio having an 11 Lena off the bat. Is a lot more favorable. Sorry, can you continue, Corbin?
Yeah, no worries. I was wondering what Izala's Lena had when she left the party because I missed it. But yeah, as you said, Ezio will have at least that to go into with. Lower magic on Lena, like numbers wise, is not a bad thing. Like you'd think that 14 magic is bad, but if you compare it to something like 18 strength, but it's actually comparable if not better. So one of the goals that we want Lena to reach is we want her to get to 15 magic as quickly as possible. And the higher she is, the more useful she could be. But there have been cases, both in this tournament and of course in normal speedrun attempts, where Lena just refuses to get magic. I think her percent chance to get a magic up is somewhere in the 40s per level, so it's really low, less than a coin flip for her to get a magic up. Versus Serge and Glenn, which I believe their percent chance is in the mid to upper 70s to get a strength up. Anyway, we're talking all about this stats, and it's for all the fights in the future. Depending on the stats we have, some of the fights will be a little bit quicker, some of them will be a little bit slower. But they should all be completable, and that's the important thing to get across, is that you don't need optimal stats unless you're going for PB attempts.
Yes, this is
We
why
also-
we. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just clarifying because I know chat kind of wanted to double check on the fact that the party does stat up in the background in those star fights. So leaving Lena, at for example at 10 magic, there's 5 opportunities, star fights, in the Viper Manor, for her to get more magic. So if you leave her at like a 9, don't as Corporate was saying, don't lose hope.
An interesting part about that whole character still getting levels for star levels, even when you don't have them, is also that characters you haven't even recruited yet are also rolling their stats in the background as you go through the game, including characters that you never recruit. So as you go through the game, all characters are all rolling stats at star levels, which will come into play when you recruit them.
It gives you some nice flexibility from a casual point of view or playthrough to just pick and choose who you want in your party just to try them out for a bit. More often than not, on average, the characters that you get eventually will not lag too far behind your current party. But if you do spend time fighting enemy encounters to get those mini stars or those HP gains per fight, the characters in the background that you don't put in your party will kind of fall behind just a little bit. But you could always do a new game plus or whatever, or continue plus and replay the game with the characters that you've gotten later on.
That's all just about wrapping up with the button mashing portion, the exposition portion of this category speedrun, by finishing talking to the shrine priestess. Something, generally speaking, usually Serge will do some kind of animation, whether it's, putting his hand to his head or something, or kneeling and then standing up. There's a lot of visual cues like that throughout this run that you can use to know, oh, I'm about to have to make a choice here, like saying no to kid, or in this case, knowing, oh yeah, so we're done with the button mashing, now I need to move. So something good to pay attention to, so that you're not, accidentally button mashing through, repeated text over and over again and losing time.
Yeah, we do see Azala finally making the escape out of this talking section. Heading to Termina, actually, where we're going to be doing the biggest part of the shopping for this race percent.
It's actually a secret break time. There's a good, what is this, 40 seconds or so that you can
I believe
use
it's
to...
yeah, I believe it's like 40 seconds. It's longer than what you would think.
You don't have to put any inputs, so you can, some people claim they can fit in some bathroom breaks, even if you're that desperate.
Yeah, we're gonna see Azala make a couple of stops here. Azala's gonna either, in any order here, is going to stop by the Element Shop, which is actually why we don't put Lena in the party here, because there's actually some text that we're avoiding, a cutscene that we're avoiding by not having Lena in the party for the Element Shop. But yeah, Azala's gonna buy some elements from the Element Shop. He's gonna actually first go down here to proc this cutscene with Glenn that we have to do before leaving, and then also go buy Lena and Glenn's next weapons that we're going to need going forward from the blacksmith.
Yeah, there's a little bit of freedom in the routing here. There's 3 stops you do in Termina, and you just got to make sure you do all of them, because if you don't, not procking or not flagging this scene with Glenn means you can lose out on him forever. And we really like Glenn, so.
Yeah, speaking of freedom, in addition to just buying these elements which are kind of required, you don't have to go to the smithy to forge the weapons for Lena or Glenn. It is highly advisable that you do, but if you think you're going to get a very strong Glenn, you can do what Carbon does, or is just skip the whole thing, and you do save quite a bit of time, potentially. But for our intents and purposes for this race, it is a very good idea to just go and forge the steel sword and iron ladle. And thankfully all the things we got in Viper Manor, all the goodies, just happened to be useful for disassembling materials so that we can forge those weapons. We picked up like a silver pendant and a knee pad, things like that. Yeah.
We did actually see Azala lose his first battle with one of the Chrono Cross doors.
I was just about to mention that.
He was struggling to get in the blacksmith door.
That door, in particular, is rough for whatever reason.
And I think a part of it has to do with like the stairway that you have to take to get up to the door in the first place. I feel like that has some interference some way or in some shape. But yeah, so you'll notice so like here and in the upcoming ghost ship portion that we're about to see, kind of a technique a lot of speedrunners use is when you hold down circle, it'll put your characters to walk. In fact, that's actually the default is that you walk and then you hold circle to run, but we did that menu at the very beginning to swap those 2 options. But walking up when you're close to a door actually helps you open the door on the first try. I think just because of how small those hit windows are when you're walking, you're not accidentally overstepping the hit window when you're running.
Oh yeah, so on Azala's screen we're going to get Glenn. If anybody hasn't gotten their guesses in, Glenn could be anywhere from 10 to 20 strength. On average he'll be 15 or 16. But both runners are going to hope for a very strong Glenn, hopefully 17 or more. But we have a few seconds before Glenn is accepting the party. For any percent attempts, we want to reduce Glenn's name to a single letter because he has more text after Lynx 2, or after Lynx at Fort Dragonia, that category. For this category, you don't have to rename Glenn, but text in this game is rendered, I believe, 2 letters at a time, and so by shortening everybody's name to or certain people's names to a single letter, you get the letter and then the colon, and then it can just move on. But characters who talk a lot or who are mentioned in conversation a lot are worth renaming. Ooh, 13 strength Glenn. All right.
Oof.
That's not great, but Azala can get through. Sure.
It's got a little bit of time for all of his characters to pick up a little bit through the ghost ship section, but with how low his his Serge is also, getting at 13 Glenn does not feel good. I think means he's at like a sum 24 or 25. I didn't see if he got one from Lynx, but
He got a +2 on Link, so he's 13 and 13.
oh, so 26 actually. Okay, that's not as bad as I thought
Ooh,
it
the
was.
13 club trio.
Everyone's 13.
Yes, you
Lucky
saw that
13.
Azala put Matcha in the party there after recruiting her, and that's because if we don't put Matcha in the party, she gives us the boat, but then she'll do a long animation where she swims away, and while really funny, is very slow.
Very slow.
I know this game just does not want us to add Lena in the party until like the very end, essentially. Because yeah, if we have Lena before with the Lisa shop, she chats with Lisa, and yeah, adding Aaron before Matcha, you got the swim away scene. That's a lot of time lost for adding Lena right off the bat.
So while
We actually-
13... Oh, sorry, Handy.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, while 13 is low for both Serge and Glenn in strength, 13 is actually pretty good for Lena. On average, she's 12. And again, her goal is to reach 15 as quickly as possible. Also, Izala's Lena had decent HP. It was like 111, I think. It was over 110. And one of the boss fights coming up, Lena's HP can matter in terms of whether or not she gets knocked out in one hit. But Izala's should be pretty good to go. But we'll see how the fight goes.
We've moved into the menuing portion. So we've done our shopping, we've done our retail therapy. Now we are moving on into the menuing before the ghost ship. Well, I guess you just finished it, but it's really can take up a lot of time trying to maneuver around these menus. I personally feel like they don't feel as smooth as like naturally what you'd want your arrow keys and confirm keys to do. So it takes a lot of practice to efficiently get through those menus, equipping those elements onto the appropriate levels.
Yeah, adjusting to like what feels like some input lag, or I don't know if input lag, it just feels very clunky sometimes in the Chrono Cross menus. It's definitely a acquired skill to get used to whenever you first start. On Azala's screen, though, we actually see Azala moving into the next part of the story that we're going for up to Lynx 2 here, where we're actually trying to get through Mount Pyre to eventually get through to the fort. So we head through this fog here, and we get stopped by this pirate ship and get surrounded here, where they're going to make us do a gauntlet of fights, starting with one we can actually run away from, which is kind of funny because it's forced and it doesn't seem like you should be able to. Where we're then going to fight Polly afterwards, and then finally end up with Fargo at the end of the gauntlet.
There's actually 3 total fights that forced fights that you can run away from on the ghost ship.
So in terms of strategy for fights in general in the game, at this part of the game is where we start transitioning to the more or less tried and true strategy that we use for the rest of both this run and the 80% run, where we effectively soup up one character as our carry and have the other 2 as supports. So in this section, we're effectively working with having Serge being our carry because he is innate white element, and a lot of the enemies coming up in this next section are innate black element, so he'll do extra damage to them. So he'll be our primary damage dealer. So we'll use things like, if anything, we'll use things like Strengthen and Eagle Eye on Serge to help him do as much damage as possible, while the other 2 characters kind of do effectively chip damage. And the character that is our carry will change throughout the next couple sections, which is why we want to get both Glenn and Lena, is that Glenn will be our carry for the Mount Pyre section, and then Lena will be our carry for both the Fort Dragonia.
So on the Izala's screen, we're in the Polly fight, Fargo's famous parrot. We're going to turn Serge blue, and then hopefully Lena can get these 4 attacks in and use Ice Blast. She did. And on this full blue field, everybody should be able to survive Polly's attack, which is a red element attack called Flap. And that's where Lena's HP comes into question. Sometimes if she has less than 105 HP, on a full blue field, there's a chance she'll get knocked out. But with her HP, she's fine. but with his stats, Izala might have Lina run up and hit a few more times to use Aqua Ball. I don't know if he equipped it or not, but
The only reason I don't think he will is because he got such a great start from the AP. Yeah.
good fight. Yeah, this is Glenn and Lena's chance to get more stats. 14, 14, all right. So yeah, as Mad was talking about all the battles to come, we want Serge to kind of hit 16 or 17 strength by this point so that he can guarantee certain damage ranges on the enemies. But for the Fargo fight, we're going to strengthen and turn Serge red. And since Fargo is blue element, the extra red on the field will reduce his attack power and increase Serge's attack power. And so Serge and Glenn will tag team for a bit, and then when Fargo uses Strengthen on himself, we'll have a full red field. And then at that point, we'll set up to use the first dual tech in the game. I think it's the only one we use in the speedrun, called X Strike or Cross Strike or Kai Strike, however you want to say it. But he's always playing it a little bit more carefully because, again, both his Serge and Glenn are not that strong, so he might have to do a little bit of extra chip damage.
Yeah, there's actually a balance here that you kind of have to be careful for, because if you have low strength, you kind of do want to do a little bit more damage for your X Strike. However, if you do too much, you spend too much AP, the strength then wears off, and it has the inverse effect where you end up doing ultimately less damage.
And another good fight for Izala. No misses, and alright, Serge and Glenn are 15.
And just on Ezio's side, to keep everyone updated, so he did get a 15 Glenn and a 14 Magic Lena. So he's definitely looking a lot better with those initial stats than Izala. So maybe we'll see if that gives him an edge and maybe inching closer on this ghost ship portion.
Yeah, so we see that Izala, although winning the fight against Fargo in the gauntlet that they put us through, is a pirate and still tranquilizes us, even though we won. And so we're going to get locked down here underneath the ship. We're just going to start off our next part of this adventure where we're trying to escape the ghost ship. If one of you want to maybe explain the big RNG section coming up here and what runners really dread.
Yeah, I'll take that. So on the ghost ship, in order to escape, we need to find the key to the door that'll let us out. And the one of the big mottos on this ship is that key duty is a big responsibility, but unfortunately with the ghost ship takeover, the person that was on key duty, was so, shocked at all the ghosts that he just accidentally handed the key off to someone else, and he completely missed who he gave that key to. So basically we have to figure out who has the key to let us out, and this is completely RNG based, just kind of like how the code to the Viper Manor door works. It could be one of three, well, technically four, but for all intents and purposes, one of three possible people, and it's actually about 2 minutes time difference to get the first key versus the third key, because you have to take a fight in order to talk to each of those three people. And coming up here is Ghost Dance, if someone else wants to take over explaining Ghost Dance.
Yeah, sure. So in this room, we want to talk to the pirate and run around in circles so that the wraith doesn't come in contact with us. We're going to run into one of the corners, either the top left or bottom right, circle around and talk to the pirate. You do not want to leave this door frame that he's all standing in. If you leave, then, as Deeds mentioned, that you could end up with the fourth key location. So you want to make sure that pirate finishes what he's saying before you leave the room. And then we were talking about doors earlier, and doors are a true boss in this game because they're very slippery to open. Their hitboxes are a bit wonky. But here, especially on this ghost ship, doors are very challenging to open. So it's not uncommon to have a runner stuck at a door trying to get through, and the Wraith sneak up on them.
Yeah, so Zala is still at 15 strength here, which is a little bit below average. Additionally, got a kind of not great formation, and then also missed and then got Sword Dance, which puts a black on the field, which also is going to make his Surge do even less damage and can kind of snowball how long the fight takes.
Yeah, this is tricky. Oh, nice crit though.
Oh, yeah.
Made
that's
it a
what
lot
you
less tricky. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
Ezio's starting the
variations
poly
of all
fight.
the. Oh, sorry.
No, go, Needs. You got it.
The variations you can get. Ideally, you only want to get 2 monsters on your fights, because then you can usually, you know, hopefully if you're strong enough, finish them off within 1 turn. But yeah, getting 3+ definitely takes longer, especially when your stats are as low as Azala's.
First key
First
for
key.
Izala.
Quick and speedy. Now for Azala, the big thing is going to be the Ghost Escape section, where there's a couple of like movement tech stuff that you kind of have to do here to narrowly avoid all the enemies leaving here, because these are all avoidable.
On Ezio's screen, the flap knocked out Lina. Serge got a really nice crit in there. Luckily, you could still revive Lina and not worry too much about it, but this fight can get bad if you constantly miss and have really poor stats.
Oh, that was close for Azala. So those enemies he just kind of went by are actually probably the trickiest, just because it's random. They're random is when they're going to dart across. Azala kind of didn't play scared and decided to try to run by, and it worked out. It was just very, very close. Good escape from Azala.
You see Azala picked up the Photon Beam there, which is not required for this category, but is used in the any percent route. And based off of how the game is set up, the Lynx at Fort Dragonia run can be continued into an any percent route. So if you run the Lynx at Fort Dragonia and decide that this was a pretty good run, you want to continue, you might continue it into an any percent run, and I think Azala is potentially considering that, cause especially with a 56 minute Lynx 1 and a first key. So just hedging bets of potentially continuing the run after the.
Yeah, Izala should be able to finish this Deadhead fight at about an hour 30. Again, his stats aren't great, but if he gets a crit, it could be sub 130 for sure.
I will say, with getting first key, sorry, Corpy, continue.
No worries. No, you got it, Andy.
I was gonna say the only thing I'm worried about with Azala right now, with continuing potentially into an 80% run, is that he's gonna have to buy the diminish. He did get guard skip, and he got 3 guards on both of them, and he got first key here, so he might. I don't know. It depends on his money situation, but buying diminish is pretty expensive, and so it's gonna be something to see if he's gonna have the money to be able to get.
Yeah, on Izala's screen, he's fighting the Deadhead fight. All bosses in this game are not allowed to roll a 0 AP start, which means they don't get an immediate action. They go at least 1 AP before they get an action. Deadhead is the exception because it takes the first action to form, and then after that, it's about average of 6 AP before he gets another turn. So Deadhead is a very consistent boss as long as you have the stats for it. Ezio's screen, we saw Lina have 16 magic, and I believe Glenn was at 16 as well, strength. Nice crit for Zala.
Yeah,
so
moving
Izala's
forward,
set.
that AP start starts to matter a lot more going into Mount Pyre and into Fort Dragonia. In fact, it almost directly impacts what strategies you use, whether or not the boss gets to go within 1 AP roll of you going or not.
A double crit for Izala.
Oh.
Wow.
What are low stats? You know, they don't matter.
This is a really good fight. So you see Izala using Cure Plus on Deadhead. It takes the traditional JRPG stereotype of healing spells hurting undead enemies, even though it's a blue element. But yeah, that dash and slash will do it.
Yeah, that's a very good fight. You can't ask for more than 2 crits on Deadhead.
Get all the crits. Yeah, and that'll put him ahead on his time. So if he can get that diminish, if he's got the money for it, it's looking really good for Zala right now. Not to jinx him or anything.
And there is a
You already
backup,
jinxed him.
I know.
Unfortunately, Azala's Lena has not gotten any magic throughout the entirety of the ghost ship, but that's okay. She started off pretty above average, so she still has quite a few opportunities to hit that 15 number that we're looking for.
Yeah, and any percent money is a little bit tighter because, as you said, we need to pick up the diminish. The backup, if you don't have enough money, is to sell some of the panacea and other elements you've picked up. But there's even a further backup from the backup. If you can't get diminish and you plan to go on to any percent, you could skip just using diminish and use turn black instead. It makes some fights really risky, but not impossible to deal with. Looks like Izala did not pick up diminish. So, interesting choice.
We do see Ezio. He. Oh
Okay.
no!
Oh no.
Oh,
He went a little too early while he was in that corner. But he's wedged up against the wall, so he wants to. Well, we'll see what happens. I don't know.
well, I
I'm not
think he
sure he's going
opened
to
the
be able to
door.
escape.
yeah, he's gonna be going. I think he'll automatically be going into the other room after this fight.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I think that means he has to reset the dial. Oh wait, does that count as? No. Okay, he should be fine.
Yeah, it's going to get him again.
Uh-oh, that means he's gonna get fourth key.
I don't know.
If you
I don't know about that, but he
if
will
you-
have
I
to
think
defeat
if-
this ghost.
I'm pretty sure if you get into an encounter in the middle of the text from that pirate, you get fourth key.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
We'll see if
actually
it's- Okay.
done. It's fine. I've actually kind of done that strategy. I'm still relatively. I'm starting to be consistent about getting Ghost Dance, but not to the point where I feel like I'm guaranteed to get it. So I personally have done that strategy before, where I'll go into the other room right there. But you do have to remember that the ghost is still in the middle, and he will get you if you're trying to talk to any of those NPCs. You do still have to bait it towards the fire first, so that it'll disappear by the time you talk to the NPCs. That's one of the crucial things to remember when you're trying to understand Ghost Dance.
Izala's screen. Everybody get your W's ready in the chat. About to see the third and final tutorial for this speedrun. Well, technically the catch-up fight was the third tutorial, but this one teaches us about trap elements and salt and pepper. Well, salt tends to use the trap in the wrong way, so that we can learn through negative example. Yeah, this fight's interesting because the drops at the very end are very important. The common drops are very good defensive equipment for usually Serge and Lena, and the rare drops are very good offensive equipment for Lena or Glenn, and eventually Serge if you take this to any percent. Puexel says, also teaches us about the 22nd letter of the alphabet. That is absolutely true.
That is true.
Beautiful chat.
I am now second guessing my knowledge on whether or not it is. I haven't seen it in a while. Whether or not getting hit there counts as fourth key, but I'm curious to see if that is gonna work or if that's how it's gonna play out.
Ooh, a dodge from Salt. Yeah, Pepor cannot stand Salt's stupidity anymore, so he decides to take out his anger and goes to attack him. And there's a chance he'll continue to attack him in the fight, which is pretty nice, but rare that Salt actually misses. I'm sorry, Pepor actually misses hitting Salt. There we go.
That's so nice with these salt and pepper tutorials to do damage for us, like with the ketchup fight and in this fight. But
And
not in
especially
Azala's
when you're
case.
lacking just a little bit of strength, that little extra damage that Pepor does to Salt is actually helpful. So you tend to want to enter this fight with Glenn at 18 strength if you can, because then you'll have a very clean, quick fight more often than not. Oh, but with that crit, he doesn't have to worry about
Oh.
Salt. It's all getting all the crits.
Okay, so yeah, no, Ezio did get second key. Okay, so getting to the encounter there does not count as not clearing the text, and it won't give you first key.
I didn't think
That's
it
good.
because I thought I recalled doing the same thing myself and not getting fourth key, but I wasn't confident
Yeah,
enough to.
when I was learning Ghost Dance, I was told that it did, so I've always just avoided getting caught there.
No, I didn't
did
think
see-
so.
I did see
Sorry.
Ezio explicitly go back and talk to the pirate again through the whole text box from scratch. So maybe that is true, but starting the text box over again could potentially
Yeah,
be
that's
that.
what PH in chat is actually saying right now. He said you still have to go back and talk. So if he didn't go back and talk to the guy, it would.
On Izala's screen, he got the extra Dragoon Gauntlet. So Glenn is at 17 strength for Izala, but when he equips this Dragoon Gauntlet, he's going to be effectively at 20. So that's a big boost for Izala. But unfortunately, his Lena is still at 13. Remember, the goal is to get Lena to 15 by the end of this whole section. He still can do that. He's got 3 star fights to get a +1 magic to Lena before it starts to matter.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, at this part of the game, this Mount Pyre section, we're using Glenn as our carry because Glenn generally has more strength than Serge. Also, Glenn being innate green is helpful for a few of the fights in here where there are some enemies that are innate yellow. So Glenn will naturally do some extra damage to them as well. So on Azala's screen, we're coming up to the Fire Dragon fight, which is probably one of the scarier fights in
I'm
the
not
run.
gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, handy. I'm gonna wait until after this happens before even talking about what could potentially happen.
I'll say it. You can get a 1 roll here. It didn't happen, so good.
I'm not cursed.
Not quite. Let's
Corporate
see if,
safe.
let's see if Glenn can go here.
Oh,
All right, so
good
Glenn
start.
was able to go. So Azala got the good start. So what can happen is that Fire Dragon is very fast, and that if he goes either on the first or second turn that he's able to, it can really mess up with strategies. There's a lot of backups and alternate strategies to handle the fight in that case, but what happened on Azala's screen is what we want to see happen. You want to be able to see somebody hit one attack and then give Glenn Eagle Eye, and then have Glenn be able to attack with a 3-3 before the Fire Dragon gets to go. That sets up for what we want to do. If that doesn't happen, and the Fire Dragon goes early, that will potentially mess up with a lot of the strategies, and we have to do something different.
This is a very good fight for Glenn to get a crit on, because it doesn't seem like he's doing a whole lot of damage, doing 80 to 70 or whatever, but a crit for Glenn almost does 200, which is very helpful. But yeah, I think Izala is good to go. Very unlikely that he's not going to defeat the Fire Dragon, because Lena will use an Ice Blast here. Has a chance of freezing the Fire Dragon, which I think gives you like an extra AP value to work with, something like that. And yep,
Really
good
good
fight for
fight.
Izala.
If I'm not mistaken, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Monardina in chat says, if I recall right, burn decrease attack damage. I believe it means you take more damage.
Yeah, it's not our attack damage is decreased, is that enemies do more damage to us.
Azala still hasn't gotten a single magic on Lena since picking her up.
Oh,
She's still at
no.
13.
Still has 2 more opportunities for it. That's all he needs.
Just give him a +2 Chrono Cross, please.
So Ezio had a pretty clean deadhead fight. So he's finished with the ghost ship. Fortunately, he did hit that Wraith enemy, I think 3 times, trying to do the ghost dance, so that lost at least a minute of time off of Izala, plus second key, lost even more time, at least a minute and a half of time off of Izala.
It's not a very good star level for Ezio. I don't
So
think
Izala is
anybody got
entering the
anything.
3 Devas fight. The goal in this fight is to strengthen up Glenn and use Eagle Eye on him. Then Serge and Glenn will get to level 3 by hitting a 1 and a 2. And while they're both at level 3, they'll be able to use the X-Strike dual tech, and they'll take out Marcy. Because Marcy is very fast, and after she hits her second melee attack on you, she'll use a blue element attack called String Phone, which is pretty strong, slow, and it hits everybody. But after Marcy, Glenn will focus on Zoa, because Zoa has some slow, powerful attacks as well. And then once Zoa's out of the way, they'll all focus on Karsh.
So far, a pretty good fight. Hasn't really missed too much.
Like that delayed, you enjoy pain?
Yeah, this is another one of those fights where Glenn being innate green comes into play because Zoa is innate yellow and has a good decent chunk of HP, especially considering there are 3 enemies in this fight. So Glenn being able to get buffed up and do extra damage is very nice, and then also putting extra green elements on the field to increase that damage further makes it that we can fairly reliably skip Zoa's element called Geronimo, which is both a yellow element, which would naturally decrease Glenn's attack power, but is also hits pretty hard, so it's a little bit scary overall. But as long as Zoa doesn't go too early, we can generally skip it.
I talked about earlier how AP, counting AP is nice for like the Marcy fight or even the Red Dragon fight, but when you've got 3 enemies on the field like this and they all have, different AP counts and they can start at different times, it can be a little difficult keeping track of all of that.
A 14 magic for Lena, for Izala. Finally.
Yeah, that was a pretty good fight from Azala through and through.
Yeah, that as Andy mentioned, that gauntlet really helped carry the fight. Without it, he would not have defeated Karsh as quickly, and maybe, with Zoe would have been fine. As Mad was talking about the yellow innate of Zoa, Karsh is green, so Glenn doesn't do extra damage to Karsh. So in that case, what Izala did was he turned Glenn blue, and then used Ice Blast from Lena to kind of finish him off. So otherwise Glenn would not do much damage to Karsh at all. You see Izala is the first one to make it to Fort Dragonia, as EzioPony's making his way through Mount Pyre, starting the Salt and Pepper fight. Get your W's in chat ready, if you feel like it.
Yeah, this cutscene's a little bit of a deja vu. This is one of at the very beginning of the game, you can actually skip this cutscene, but I think because it's skippable at the beginning, it's like, oh, well, now you have to watch it here going into Fort Dragonia.
Yeah, really ideally here, you're wanting to try to skip the Acacia Breath. It's very common to not skip it, but he got a good AP roll, so instead of doing Magnify, he instead opted just to go ahead and get the levels with Lena. Basically, kind of gives him a much higher chance of actually skipping the Acacia Breath.
Yeah, with good stats, this guy is not a problem. When you have really low stats and no Ice Blast and things like that, the fight will drag on, and he's actually pretty powerful. He has an attack called Lunge, which does over 200 damage to your party members. But Izala should not have any problem.
Does the fight drag on because he's a Dragoon?
Yup.
Oh,
Oh, that 3-3. He should have just done a 1 and then the Aqua
I think
Beam.
the Aqua Beam. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Dragoon Rider has very high defenses and not as high magic defense. So even though Glenn is kind of a weakling when it comes to magic, it still usually does about 70 damage, his Aqua Beam attack. Now his Glenn has 14 magic, wow. And hey, Zala's Lena made it to 15. So
We
Zala's
did
on
happen.
time.
Yep. We did happen to see at the end of that fight that we got dropped the Frog Prince, which is a blue innate summon element. That is actually one of the reasons we mainly pick up Lena early on, because that Frog Prince is going to be used throughout almost the entirety of this fort until the very end.
This is kind of the last menuing opportunity. Oh, and he did put the Panacea. Okay, so he put the Panacea on Glenn, so he's gonna do the normal.
Yeah, Zal is currently working on a slightly new strat for a low magic Lena for the upcoming Son of a Gunfight, which involves putting the Panacea on Serge as opposed to Glenn, which is who we normally put it on. But because Lena got to the magic level she needed to, Zal felt safe that on that menu finally putting the Panacea on Glenn where it normally is.
I wonder if Zal is going to try to risk skipping or getting in front of this bat. No. You can technically get in front of that bat. It's just depends on where the bat spawns and whether or not you're able to notice whether or not it spawned in a location that lets you get to it through it or not. It also requires perfect movement upon entering the room.
Ezio, on the other hand, have some really good stats. Where after the Salt Pepper fight, 17 strength Glenn, 16 strength Serge, and a 17 magic Lena.
Andy says 17 strength Lena? Wait, is she 17 strength?
I think she is as well. But I'm
Oh
pretty
my-
sure I saw her have 17 magic as well.
Well, Lena is a monster.
Lena is putting in work.
Yeah, no, no.
Yeah, she's 17 strength and 17 magic. I wasn't seeing things.
Over on Azala's screen, probably one of the biggest or the most complicated puzzle in this game, and honestly, pretty complicated for a lot of JRPGs. I want to say it involves what I kind of talked about at the very beginning of this race, where you can swap your leadership positions, and knowing that select does that is actually essential. The essential key to solving this puzzle. Basically, the only way to activate the button to the stairs and to activate the platform that the pillar we're trying to activate to lower, you have to be in a very specific party order when you stand on that platform in the other room. So you have to do that 2 different times, again, for the blue button and the tablet to solve this puzzle.
So Ezio's entering the Fire Dragon fight. Does not get the 1 roll, so he should be fine. See whether or not Glenn's able to get a 3-3 off before the Fire Dragon goes. And he was, so good starts for both of the runners for the Fire Dragon. And a crit from Glenn, that's really nice.
Both Gardner, Eden, and Andy in chat have called out that Ezio's Lena also has the most HP out of everybody. Ezio's Lena is the highest in all of the main stats among Ezio's party.
Go, Lena! Best girl, let's go!
Yeah, so Izala's gonna go into this next puzzle room, the chest room, where there's a bat flying around. This bat is interesting in that it has a really awkward hitbox. It's pretty big, and it's easy to run into it when you least expect it, but with proper movement through this area, including pausing and walking at certain spots, you avoid running into that hitbox, and he'll make his way to the giant gloop fight.
Looks like Ezio is trying to also think about the best way to do a backup on this Fire Dragon fight, because Glenn had taken a lot of damage. He opted to cure Glenn, which might not be the worst thing in the world. It not only gives him more hit points, but it also puts a blue on the field.
Dodges on Azala's side for that bat. It really is one of the worst bats in this whole game, is that room specifically.
So for the giant gloop fight, there are 2 general strategies. One when Lena has less than 15 magic, and then one when she has 15 or more. she has less than 15, you have to use turn red on Giant Gloop. Otherwise, you do what Izala's doing, which is just magnify and then geniusing Lena. And then the next goal is to set up the full blue field so that they'll be able to summon Frog Prince. And you might ask why use Frog Prince on the Giant Gloop, because Giant Gloop is also blue element. And the answer is that Frog Prince is just that strong. It'll do well over 500 damage to Giant Gloop. And I believe he has somewhere like 860 HP, something like that. So that Ice Blast almost does 250 damage right off the bat. So.
Ezio got the rare magic ring drop from Fire Dragon, so his Lena has 2 magic rings on top of being 17 magic.
Very nice.
And 18 strength, apparently. She is, she's getting all of the stats. And 18 magic? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Ezio might be able to
powerful Lena.
one-shot the Bunyip with Frog Prince if his Lena keeps getting magic. Let's see.
Andy in chat making a comment about how strong the Lena is, saying, Serge, it's time to X-Strike with Lena instead of Glenn.
If only. Does Lena have a shared tech with anybody? I can't remember.
I'm actually not too sure.
Yeah, me neither.
Garden Aiden in chat says she has Delta Force, which is a triple tech with Raz and Surge.
Yeah, we saw on Ezio's screen, he did use the X-Strike on on Marcy, but it didn't do enough damage. If you don't have decent stats for Glenn and Surge, sometimes you'll have to have Lena finish the job, just bopping Marcy on the head with her ladle.
Especially with how strong of a Lena he's got.
Yeah. That's quite the
It looks
bop.
like Ezio is still doing the old strat of not strengthening Glenn before the X-Strike, which is probably why Marcy survived, because I just saw Lena turn red on Karsh, which is an older way of doing the fight. Yeah, Ezio seems to be following one of the older strats for this fight.
Yeah, it's a pretty good strat as long as you have the stats for it. You generally hope Serge and Glenn have like 19 to 20 strength for both of them, and then it can go really quickly. But the older or the newer strat kind of, oh, nice crit. The older strat kind of accommodates not as strong Surges and Glens.
Beyond Azala's screen, joking about going for what is known as the Cybot skip, where if you wedge your character in the corner on a specific pixel, the Cybot that is currently walking down will walk past you, but if you're not there, he will get you into an encounter, and you will be trapped in the corner there and will be forced to fight him. So it is a definite time loss, failing it. So very risky for like about I'd say 6-second gain.
It's like 8, 10, something. It's not worth it. It's
not worth it.
You need to be going for like world record runs, basically, for that to even be a consideration. Although there are some runners that feel very consistent on that, so for them, it's not as much of a risk, but it works because that's where the stairs, when you press the blue button, that's where the stairs go down. So that's what allows the skip to be possible in the first place.
And 19 strength Lena for Ezio is ridiculous.
Ooh, Azala got caught by the paper boy in this section. This section that Azala's going through involves dodging these enemies, and what they will do is they will hang out and kind of chase after you on these narrow passageways, but occasionally they'll go invisible, at which point we can run through them without getting into an encounter. But they can also rematerialize almost randomly at will, and makes it pretty difficult to dodge, especially that one, because he starts off screen, so we can't even really see him as we approach. But those enemies are notoriously annoying to potentially dodge.
Enjoying all these Lena memes in the chat. Just give Lena the sword and Glenn the spoon.
Yeah, Handy, you want to explain how Torsoid works?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, where Giant Gloop was a little bit forgiving because Gloop naturally uses blue elements, which help fill the field blue. Torosoid is not blue and will do heavy hitting green elements. Luckily, it was a good target from the body press, so he doesn't have to go back to a cure or anything like that. But there's going to be a phase here, like the entry phase, where we're going to do a bunch of setups. Azal's going to do turn red. You can also do a weak minded there. He's going to build up Glenn to get ready for Magnify. Not Magnify before the turn. Then Genius Lena, and then basically defend. So he's fully set up for getting Frog Prince off in between this attack that's about to happen from Torosoid and the turn coming up. But basically, yeah, he's just going to count, hopefully to account for any misses. He's going to have 11 AP to try to get 3 blues on the field and Frog Prince off.
One of the dangers for this fight is Lena getting hit. And on Ezio's screen, if Lena keeps getting HP the way she has been, Lena could get hit by Torsoid and Ezio won't care. Doesn't have to heal her up at all. But normally 2 hits from Lena will knock her out, and it's a mess.
Yeah, so Zal is getting this last blue element on the field, and then we'll use the Frog Prince, which, with Lena being at 16 magic here, should absolutely defeat the Torosoid.
20 strength Lena.
20 strength. 20 strength, 18
How
magic.
high can she go?
Oh,
Get your hits in, everybody.
I've legitimately never seen this high of a strength Lena across anybody's runs.
Never. I've never seen this before.
Zal has successfully made it through the Torosoid fight, which Torosoid is a potential fight for losing a lot of time, like as mentioned, where if Lena gets targeted with the first attack and then gets attacked again, she can easily die. And then the only backup is to revive her and then hope she doesn't get attacked a third time. In which case, if she gets attacked a third time and she gets KO'd, then nothing you can do but run and try again, which is a very big time loss. EzioPony going through the head, body, tail puzzle, whereas Izal is making his way out of the Torosoid section and going into the final section in the bottom floor of Dragonia, which is, again, just another puzzle. There is no boss fight. It involves platform and compass directions, where our goal is to get to on our screen, the rightmost platform to fall down to get the crystal, but because that's all we care about, we don't really have to worry about the puzzle, so it's the same every time. We just turn the statue to go south to get to where we want to go. But on a casual playthrough, the direction that we go is more dependent on the direction we went previously, and it's a more interesting puzzle, but in the speedrun it's very easy. We just pick the south direction and go get the crystal and leave.
Yeah, so the pillar that he's all is activating is the red element. And so far, let's see, hold on. No. Yeah, we don't fight one of every enemy that's that element innate, so we don't fight a yellow enemy, for example, on Ezio's screen. However, after Son of a Gun, which is the fight coming up, we fight Bunyip, and Bunyip is 2 elements. It starts off as red element, then goes to black element. Son of a Gun is the white element. Speaking of Son of a Gun, if anybody is sensitive to nightmare fuel, clowns, creepy faces, things like that, suggest you turn away as Izala enters that cylindrical chamber. Just listen for the fanfare at the end of the fight, and you'll know the nightmare has been slain. Yeah, Dee, do you want to explain how the Son of a Gun fight goes normally?
Yeah, this is one of those fights that we were kind of talking about earlier, where the boss's AP count at the beginning kind of impacts the rest of the fight, because the son of a gun mechanically has 4 different kind of faces that he can have, or it can have. And the one it starts off with, he will do a kissy wissy on a member of the party, which will put that party member to sleep and render them, you can't use them. Which, for us, we want to be able to get the Frog Prince off in order to kill the boss as fast as possible. And it's really hard to do that when Lena is asleep. So that's part of why we put some medicines on a party member to wake her up if we need to. There are alternative strategies where if either Glenn or Serge fall asleep, you can still kind of work your way through the full blue field to get Lena's magic off. It's just a lot slower to do it that way because it takes several more turns in order to pull that off. Versus if you have a really good AP start, it doesn't matter. You can get your stamina levels up for Lena and everyone else to get those elements off. Oh. Okay,
I don't know what's going on Amidala's screen, but man.
That scared me for a second there. Oh no. Anyway, yeah, if you get the good AP start, it's not a problem. Everyone has enough stamina to get the 3 blue elements on the field, and for Lena to get the Frog Prince off. And it looks like that's exactly what happened with Azala here. So yay, the Frog Prince is your celebratory. You get to celebrate getting the Frog Prince off and be done with the fight.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Very good explanation, Deeds. I was just panicking because of the black screen, but
Oh, I was too.
Izala is all well and good. Did not lose internet, probably not, and back up and running. And the nightmare has been slain. That's the important thing, everybody. Son of a gun is down.
Doc used the turn black element, and it worked too well. Oh dear.
We also see
Your discretion is strongly advised.
Yeah, we see Ezio starting the Augustus Gloop fight on the left side of the screen here.
So
With
Azala's,
his 20 strength. Oh, go ahead.
Azala's Lena got up to 17 magic after the Son of a Gun fight. So there is, I don't know what the numerical cutoff points are, but there is a potential strategy to defeat the next fight, the Bunyip fight, faster by moving the Frog Prince to the level 6 slot. So that it does a bit of extra damage with, well, that comes with a bit extra risk, so whether or not Azala elects to go for the level 6 Frog Prince strat, if the stats are good.
I think it was 17 magic. I want to
no,
say. I'd have to go back at the
It looks like
notes.
it looks like Azala's going for it. Yep, Azala has moved the Frog Prince to level 6 in hopes of being able to basically beat Bunyip with the Frog Prince itself instead of having to rely on, after the Frog Prince, having Serge use Luminaire, which is, while powerful, also fairly slow. But again, this does introduce a little bit of extra risk, so it'll be interesting to see it.
So Azala, there is a setup there you can use to get around the Dragoon if it's not in a good place. I couldn't tell if Azala thought that maybe the Dragoon was just in a good spawn location he could not have to do the setup, or if he just opted to not even go for the setup. But you can technically always skip that Dragoon.
I don't think Azala goes for the setup. I think Azala just tries, and if it doesn't work, just runs through.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that Dragoon's another harder one to get around. He's so nice if it was just a bat like it was in the flashback sequence.
It'd also be nice that if in the flashback sequence this enemy wasn't here. So this is Bunyip. Bunyip is one of the few enemies in the game that is 2 phases. And we mentioned that bosses can't go on the first turn, but 2-phase bosses can, because the second phase is treated as a second entity, a second enemy that is rolling its AP on its own. So the Bunyip can potentially go first on the second phase, but our goal is to get past this first phase with a good amount of setup, but also not waiting too long, because after Magma Bomb, which is the first thing Bunyip will do, it will use Inferno, which is a very, very powerful element. And we are also using Magnify, which would make it even stronger. Inferno has a chance of KOing basically everybody in the party if it gets to go off, so we want to avoid that. You see it in chat that Lena got yet another strength. She's at 21. She's very, very strong. But Azala's getting into the second phase of Bunyip fight and did not zero roll. So, and still got very good AP in that regard.
Got a very good AP and went for the threes, didn't miss, and got a crit on one of the threes.
Yeah, so this is looking very good.
A daredevil. That first attack from Serge is really low % chance of hitting. So generally you want to do like a 1-2-2, something like that. But he just went for the 3-3 and got incredibly lucky, and a very good AP roll, as was mentioned before.
Yeah, so this Frog Prince will definitely go off after this Aqua Beam. Lena's already at level 6. And based off the magic she has, this could potentially kill.
Yeah, I was wondering if Azala was going to do another attack with Lena, even though he didn't have to, just so that he could build a Surge to at least Bush Basher or something. But I guess he can actually defend here, and then Lena will get a 1, and then...
I think Surge still has the Aqua Beam at level 1 to go if needed.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it was that close. The classic. The enemy survives with very few HP. You just need to bonk him once.
Boop. Yeah, as Carbon was saying, yeah, his Surge magic was pretty low, so... But didn't matter. Got the crit was super helpful. Man, how many crits has Azala had in this run?
I think at least 6 throughout this run. 2 of them were on Deadhead, which was amazing.
Ezio had a very good dodge against the tricky paper boy in the corner, as Ezio is going up to the Tarasoid fight. Meanwhile, Azala, having defeated Bunyip, is now going on to the last 2 fights of the run. The first being General Viper, and then the second being Lynx himself.
Yep, and for both those fights, we won't really be applying the same strats with using Lena Frog Prince as we have been doing for a lot of the fort here.
This part's always fun for me to watch because in the dream sequence, you know, we just go through and we go through the dream sequence so much, especially with resetting, and there's a whole bunch of dialogue when you go up this teleport. But as you just now noticed on his all screen, there is no dialogue, and it's very easy to get back in the habit of just wanting to button mash. But if you do that here, you will end up teleporting all the way back down.
So Ezio was doing the Torosoid fight. He had Torosoid attack Glenn. So that's the optimal target, because again, Torosoid is green element innate, and Glenn is also green, so he resists Torosoid's attacks naturally. But with his setup, I believe both Lena and Serge would have been fine, potentially, if they had gotten hit first. So Ezio should have no trouble finishing this Torosoid fight now. But yeah, on Izala's screen, these last 2 fights, we switch over. So Lena has been the main damage dealer with the Frog Prince. At this point, we switch over to Glenn and his melee attack power. I think I saw Glenn at 22 for Izala, which is not great, but it's workable. So we're going to go switch back to Strengthening and Eagle Eye and Glenn. And then General Viper is yellow innate, so Glenn does naturally extra damage to him. So shouldn't have too much trouble here.
Yeah, I think at worst, he will for sure, regardless of like the AP roll that Viper gives, he'll for sure see G-Force, just because of how low his Glenn strength is. Over on Ezio's screen, we do see him getting the Frog Prince off, so that's really good, really important.
Yeah, with high strength and a good AP start, you can skip this attack from General Viper G-Force. It just saves a little bit of time. The yellow on the field will reduce Glenn's attack power by a little bit, but by this point in the game, Glenn is generally strong enough to not have to worry about things like that. Yeah, he'll use the Sonic Sword and finish off General Viper. And if this were an any percent attempt, we'd be really hoping for the common drop here, which is a Dragoon Gauntlet. But the rare drop is Mithril Armor, which we don't want. And Lena's at 22 strength.
22!
His Ezio's Lena is stronger than Izala's Serge, and Izala is like 3 fights ahead.
How high can she go? Let's go, Lena.
I really hope she keeps getting strength and gets a +2. I want her to be the strongest Lena in the universe.
Zala just started the final fight in this category for Lynx 2 at Fort Dragonia. Just a reminder again, the timer stops at the end of the victory screen when the screen goes black. So you do still have to go through, heal, or, you specifically want to try to not heal your character on that victory screen because of what happens afterwards. But for Lynx 2, that doesn't matter. You can just kind of button mash through that screen and, hit your timer at the end if you're only going for the Lynx 2 category.
Yeah, so for the Lynx 2 fight, one thing that can happen is getting a crit from Glenn. You hope for it because it usually allows you to skip a whole extra round of combat. But at this point, Glenn has been beefed up and turned white, so Lena's job is done. She's just there to take some hits. And Serge and Glenn will tag team Lynx, and if he needs to, without getting the crit, he'll use X-Strike to finish Lynx off. With a high strength Glenn, you don't need X-Strike, but with all his stats... Oh, he also has a Power Glove, so he's actually higher than I thought. He's not at 22, he's like 25 right now. Oh, just going straight for the Sonic Sword. Not a bad play.
Yeah, especially since Lynx did a Bush Basher as the random element he chose.
GG's for Izala. Sub 212.
Nice.
You gonna keep going with this time? I hope he does. Although he didn't get that diminish, right? Although there are alternative strategies for that.
I imagine he might not continue if he doesn't have diminish, but I could be wrong.
He's still mashing like a madman, so maybe.
I think that's more for the fact that Deeds is here in the commentary.
It's true.
If anything.
Izala does not have time to continue. Alright.
Oh no, that's so sad. That's Chrono Cross for you. It knows.
So on Ezio's side. Oh, go ahead, Andy.
I was gonna say with Ezio being on emulator and maybe how the emulator is running, we get to see an HD, what are like higher textured son of a gun, for better or worse.
Oh no. Man. Much smoother face. I think, is Ezio the only one running on emulator from all of the tournament contestants?
I believe Zan is also running on Duck Station.
Oh, you're right, Zan as well.
Yeah, we saw Ezio use a strategy on Son of Gun. He used turn blue twice. And so naturally you don't... With using Frog Prince and you turn an enemy blue, it makes him resistant to the Frog Prince damage. But with the way it works, the mechanic works, is that you use turn blue twice and it cancels out the turn blue effect. It's a little known fact. But again, Ezio has a monster of Alina, so Son of a Gun has 383 HP, and that did 444, so very much overkill on Ezio's side.
At this point, he could probably skip using Frog Prince and should just run up and smack Son of a Gun with the ladle.
Give Lena the gauntlets.
Yeah, Swole Lena will take care of it.
All right, let's see if Lena gets to 23. Don't want to jinx it. Please.
That's insane.
yeah.
You did. No. This is amazing.
I am very thoroughly entertained. Like, I've never been so invested in stats before now. Lena. And it's not even her magic stat. You know, I'm wondering if Ezio maybe is doing a Lena cosplay as well, and maybe that's factoring in.
Just bringing the good fortune.
Yeah, on Azal's screen, that's you kind of got a preview of why, if you're doing a full category run or any percent category run, you don't want to heal your party at the end of the Lynx 2 fight, because then with the fight Azala just finished up, the party will finish off Lynx way faster if his health is not at full.
Ezio getting the rare pattern where the Dragoon Rider goes upstairs. It happens, I don't know, maybe 1 in 9, 1 in 10 chance of it going on. It's kind of difficult to predict where the guard will go, left or right, but Ezio played it cautiously and got through alright. Fortunately, bats exist in this game, so Ezio has to deal with the bat. Izala's screen, kid got stabbed. We could have told her about it, but, you know, plot.
We do see Ezio also starting the Bunyip fight. Which he should have no problem with, barring any kind of misses, just because of how monstrous his Lena is.
I think she was still at 19 when I last saw, which is still very good.
I think she's 18 magic, potentially. But either way, it's stupidly high, both on strength and magic. She is way past any of the thresholds she needs to be at. She's no longer the healthiest of Ezio's party members.
That is true. She had all of like the highest everything for a while there.
And that ice blast.
Should do over 400. Yep.
Yeah, that's so
436.
much.
Yeah, normally with a decent Lena, the Frog Prince does like over 800. I'd say like between 800 and 900, but Ezio's Lena should do well over 900.
Oh, so there's the case.
Uh-oh.
The zero
Immediate
roll.
start. Okay, so when you get an immediate start from Bunyip, second phase, you have to make sure that nobody misses their attacks unless you want to take a big risk. Oh, doing a 2, that's scary. Okay. Alright, Ezio. Yeah, so Bunyip has 10 AP, which means we have 10 actions to get off the Frog Prince. So nobody is allowed to miss, on average. And if that doesn't happen, you should be fine.
It'll be very.
That's
It's
nope.
gonna be very close. The safe thing here would be to like defend the cross. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
That just means he'll have to do an extra blue. He won't get the use of the ice blast.
Yeah, he can still save this. It's not over. But if he were to start setting up the field with Aqua Beam and things like that, that Graviton would have been an interruption for the Frog Prince.
Ezio taking his time, which is what you really want to do here whenever you sometimes get into a bad situation like this, where you really need to make sure that getting Frog Prince off is the big thing. Andy brings up a good point, though, that like by doing all these extra attacks, what's probably going to happen is even if he gets the full blue field off and Frog Prince, it's going to do less damage because the Genius is probably well worn off by now.
True, but again,
Ones with big
Lena's
numbers.
Lena's a monster, so Genius isn't gonna hurt too badly. But it will make a difference, you're right. Let's see.
Ezio did get the proc prints up, which is the most important thing.
And very nice recovery by Ezio. Still 900
902.
damage.
902!
Ooh, that is a lot still. He could probably Bush Basher, maybe? I don't know how much damage, or what his magic... Okay, Luminaire's the safer thing. And no free fall.
Looks like Serge has a bunch of magic too. Normally Luminaire will do anywhere from like 230 to 275 with an average Glen. If you get hit by Graviton early and the black is still on the field, that damage will be reduced. But there was no black on the field and Serge did well over 300 damage, so...
Serge also has 18 magic.
20 for Lena for strength.
Lena, the goddess.
Ezio's stats across the board are just kind of nuts between the 24 strength Lena and the 18 magic Serge here.
Definitely one of the best Lenas we've seen in this whole tournament, for sure.
It's one of the best Lena I've ever seen.
Like
period.
ever. Ezio making records in his own way.
Yep, so we're coming into... Ooh, that guard is in a bad place. Luckily, the bat is away from... Yeah. There's been times where that guard being in that area guarding the stairs also coincides with bad placement of the bat, and you're just kind of trapped between what do you do? Like, run up the stairs, try to avoid the guy, run into the guard. Biggest thing is if you do the worst thing and you kind of like hesitate on one or the other and you get caught between both of them, you end up having to fight one of the fights.
Neither runner taking the elevator of shame back down.
And on the home run stretch for Ezio, just 2 more boss fights.
One thing we didn't quite mention is that party order actually matters a lot in terms of target selection in this game, where when you're using a buff element like Strengthen or Eagle Eye, by default it'll select your party leader, which is also part of the reason why we'll often put whoever is our carry or whoever's acting as our carry in the front position, because it's just easier to use buff elements on them. It's easy to go pick Strengthen from your element menu and then just smash X because you know it's going to target who you want to target. Whereas turn elements will by default target the enemy, and if there is a single enemy, we know that if we hit left or right twice, it'll target our party leader. So we can easily get some sort of muscle memory to buffing the characters that we want to. However, for these 2 fights, it forces Serge to be the party leader, but we still want Glenn to be our carry, so it's a little thing to keep in mind as you're running this game, that even though you want to buff Glenn, you can't just do what you normally do throughout the majority of the rest of the run, so you have to be a little bit cognizant, and Glenn got a really nice crit there.
Additionally, I do want to slightly touch on to continue the Swole Lena lore here. PH apparently went and looked at the chart, and Lena starts at 5, and Bunyip was the 19th star level, so she has legitimately gotten every single strength star at every star she could.
Technically, as Corporate's saying in the chat, she could have potentially missed one, but then gotten a +2, you know, somewhere in Viper Manor, but for all intents and purposes, means the same thing.
But yeah, she could... I don't know what the chance is, but she could keep could have gotten several +2s in a row, and that would have been insane to get. But for all intents and purposes, she is
I'm not even-
maximum Lena.
Yeah, we'd have to look. I don't know if she can, because like I know that like for her magic stat, she actually is not able to ever get +2s. Like for like practically not allowed to get +2s. So if you're ever like you need 2 before next star, she can't get +2s on magic.
Yeah, not on magic, but I have seen her get a +2 to strength. I think it's rare, but I think I've seen it.
Right.
An interesting question from Converse310 as far as can you change your carries? And there are actually cases, alternate strategies. For example, like if you skipped the blacksmith, you wouldn't want to use Glenn because he doesn't have the better weapon, and you'd be focusing on Serge being your carry for this fight instead. I mean, as far as Lena's concerned, I'm not aware of any alternate strategies that would use Lena as your carry outside of the Fort Dragonia boss rush that we use her for. But there are alternate strategies where you can change who your carry is. It just depends on what you're fighting and what you're working with.
I believe I saw Ezio's Glenn was at 24 or 25 strength, so that's pretty decent. You shouldn't have much trouble with the Lynx fight here. He also was able to get a pretty good start where Serge did a 1-2 and Glenn also rushed in to do a 2. You could also do like a 2-2 with Glenn if you were worried about damage. Let's see. Yeah, 124, that's not bad. It's a little bit low.
And if worse comes to worse, Swolena will carry the day.
Yeah, this is definitely a
Ooh,
fun
another
run.
silver hit.
Oh, sorry. Ooh.
Yeah, so Ezio should be able to skip the X strike. It might still go for it, but he doesn't have. Uh-oh, Lena.
This is what I want to see, honestly. I just want to see
Yes.
Lena finish.
Oh,
Oh no.
it's 3-3 Lena.
Yes, she contributed.
Hey, 226, Lynx 2. Let's go.
Yeah, GG's, Ezio. What are you? Oh, there she goes. She
There
got
we
two.
go.
Told
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yes.
The strongest Lena.
Maxed out.
I know a good number of the runners here have definitely had way worse Surges and Glens at this point.
That's crazy. I can't believe I'm looking at a 26 Lena.
But sadly, we don't, for the any percent, we don't really use her anymore.
Oh, we're joined by Ezio.
Hello. So, how's about that Lena strength, huh?
We were
Pretty
all rooting
awesome.
for it.
Oh, I kind of contemplated that I should have changed the strat somewhat, but wasn't really expecting that. I was having the nerves already.
The only thing I would ever possibly change is finishing it with Lena.
Just because.
Well, I almost did. Like it
That's
was
true.
one of.
Lethal with the ladle.
Yeah, GG to both of you, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, and GG to EzioPony.
Yeah, GG.
Yeah, so I believe the run started off relatively evenly. Izala got a feather, and Ezio did not get really anything. But yeah, Ezio, I believe you had much better stats than Izala. Izala struggled quite a bit, but was able to get guard skip.
Yeah, I had pretty okay stats at the beginning.
Yeah, the game was just repeating my any percent attempt from last night, where Serge was at 11 strength at Marcy. So it was not being very kind.
Nope.
Yeah, but it made up for it with granting you lots of crits.
Oh yeah, there is a ton of crits. None
Yeah,
on Lynx though.
I saw a few as well. But yeah, that ghost ship was very, very bad. Like, how many times did I run into? Like 3 times or something. It was really, really.
Yes, but you avoided fourth key, and that's what's the most important thing.
Yeah,
You made a good decision to go back and make sure to talk to the pirate before leaving. So otherwise,
yeah.
you would have lost a
That
lot
was
more.
complete accident. Of course, I didn't intend to leave. I was just mashing the A button, and it happened to be on the door. So it like opened the door and then entered the fight. And when I ran away, it like entered the door.
Like we said, doors are the secret boss of this whole game.
But then after that, Izala was able to get the extra Dragoon Gauntlet drop.
Oh,
Yeah.
So although Izala had worse stats in general, especially compared to that monstrous Lena, was able to make up a little bit of ground thanks to that Gauntlet drop.
Yeah, I think Lena was stronger than any of my characters. Possibly even combined.
Well, Lena, let's go.
and I had the extra magic ring, which I completely forgot about after I equipped it.
Yeah, as you had a really good recovery on the Bunyip fight. He got 0 rolled by
Oh,
phase 2, and
yeah, that was really, really close. Like, I was doing the calculations in my head, and I was like, "Oh no, this is never going to work." But yeah, I managed to pull it out before I saw free fall.
yeah, most runners, including myself, would have just tried to go for the setup for the blue field. But the way you did it paid off. You held back a little bit and then was able to reset up the blue field after the graviton. So that was really well done.
Yeah, I don't think it was completely optimal. There was a couple of steps probably I did wrong, but yeah.
For an on-the-fly decision was definitely very good for not for something that doesn't happen very often.
Mm. Well, I've had it happen like in two matches in this tournament.
Oh
Like
wow.
that. So let's see about the next one.
Oh, any closing comments from anybody?
Just would like to thank all of the commentators and everyone for watching. It's great to see so much interest in the game.
Yeah, thank you everyone for watching.
And that'll pretty much wrap up the last round of the round robin for the Chrono Cross tournament. Next week we'll be starting the finals bracket. Right now, Carbon Drank, who you've seen in chat many times, will be playing on September the 4th. His opponent is still yet to be determined via the offline matches. And then September 5th is our very own Corporate Image versus another opponent we still have to deal with offline matches, but this is coming to an end. It's been a really fun tournament to watch. It's, as the runners and commentary were saying, it's always nice to see so many people interested in Chrono Cross. Thank you all for coming out and supporting us, especially during the 5 weeks we've been going on so far. So without that, I'll be throwing the raid to Halation 1. He's about 2/3 of the way through a Chrono Trigger Megas percent speedrun. They're doing a community race. Feel free to stop in, say hello. Very knowledgeable, very friendly person. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We're hoping to see you next week. Everyone have a good night, be safe, and we'll see you next time.